But you have coffee if you want.
Yes, we might need that.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and just.
Okay, good evening.
Thank
I'd
you.
like to call this meeting to order, and I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of Métis Nation. My name is Carrie Linklater. I'm the chairperson tonight. Mr. Robert Hutchings is on the panel with me. Our city assessor is Brittany Santucci. Our admin secretary is Katie Sutherland. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparison of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of it and the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. And as information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Boardroom.
Good evening.
Ms. Santucci, and
I am going to suggest that perhaps a reordering of some of the properties might be useful, as certainly the Red River Co-op gas stations have some similarities between them.
okay, and those would be.
Okay, so if I might suggest, numbers 8 and 9 be moved up underneath number 1.
Okay.
Followed by number 7, which is also a Red River Co-op station, but there is a non-compliance issue associated with that we will be arguing.
Okay.
And then the remaining ones are vehicle service related properties, which I think there is enough similarity between them that we can just hear them in the order that they are. And I'm happy to have the assessor chime in. And
I'm good with that, moving stuff forward, so.
Okay. So we will start with item 1, 71 Oak Park Highway.
Please state your name.
Brittany Santucci?
Do you swear that the evidence you represent is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Bradford Scott Borgstrom.
Do you swear that the evidence you represent is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do. I feel like a porter with all these papers.
And when are you ready, Ms. Santucci?
Thank you. This is file number 19-3250, roll number 07092-001-000, address is 71 Oak Point Highway. This is, from my understanding, vehicle service related, also partial car dealership. It was built in 2016, and we have a leasable area of 17,134 square feet. If you turn to page 2, I have some aerial photos. Just the location of the property. It's located at the corner of Oak Point Highway and Selkirk Avenue. Just the one exterior photo at the bottom. I've never been in this building and there was no interior photos in our system. On page 3, I have the request for income information, shows it was received. The sales, or the subject sale history, we just have an older sale when it was previously a gas station and a money mart from 2007, so that's quite far from the reference date. For subject property leases, we have at after reviewing the income and expense mailer that the property is fully owner occupied. On page 4, I have the income workup for what we have as the vehicle dealership. We have 15,494 square feet at a rental rate modeled of $14.72 per square foot. We have our vacancy loss at 2%. Our expenses again are at the 2% for this year. Shortfall of $6 and an overall capitalization rate of 7.15%. So this first income stream gives us estimated value of $3,038,000. If you turn to page 5, I just have our rental comparables. So I'm sure you've seen these before. We don't have, I think we have a few at the bottom if they're vehicle dealerships in the auto for comparables 28 to 31. And then we have retail comparables for comparables 1 to 27 based on, we unfortunately don't have vehicle dealership. They're typically owner occupied. We have a lack of market data, so we were looking to big box stores, larger buildings with retail fronts, offices, warehouse storage, mezzanine on slab foundations. So that's why we use those above comparables, and those are an average of $18.86 and a median of $18.26. And for our auto comparables, the 4 of them, they average at $17.54 and a median at $16.25. On page 6, I've included this improved sales comp sheet. I'm not the one who verified this information, so I'm not gonna put weight on it. I didn't have time to question the person who did, so I'm not gonna go over pages 6 and 7. Page 8 is the OFS portion of the office portion of the income stream, which is the money mart located on the site. We have a leasable area of 1,640 square feet with a rental rate of $17.54 applied. We have a vacancy loss of 5.5%, expenses at 2%, shortfall at $7, and an overall capitalization rate of 5.55%. So my rental comparables I chose, I tried to find similar retail tenants in the north area of the city. I have 4 comparables and they range from $15.50 to $24 with an average of $18.50 and a median of $17.25. Page 9 is the income value summary with the 2 combined income streams for an overall net operating income of $243,236 with a capitalization rate of 6.94% and a capitalized value of $3,507,000. On page 10 is our capitalization rates, Mall Drive. On page 11 is just the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts, and on page 12 is the start of the 2017 income and expense questionnaire. When I reviewed it, it showed it was owner occupied, so I didn't really look to the rent or anything like that. Confirmed there's the 2 tenants. I know they have parking listed. I assume that's just based on the cars that are in the lot. I'm not sure why they wrote that down. And on page 14 is just the tenants, and they're owner occupied from my understanding. On page 16 is the 2020 Board of Revision addenda information. So on page 18 we just have the fresh look for the reassessment every 2 years. Page 19 is the capitalization rate evidence. This is just additional cap rate evidence. Unfortunately nothing here for vehicle service related from my understanding. Page 20 is the non-recoverable expense sampling, just showing that we're now using the 2% non-recoverable expense allowance. And page 21 is the IAAO standards. So my recommendation today is to maintain the 2020 assessed value of the $3,507,000. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Brookstrom?
I do. I first want to turn to, and I'll try and be as brief as I can on all of these properties. Turning to your pictures on page 2, there are 2 structures on this property, right?
Yes.
And previously, there were also 2 separate buildings on this site, and they were scraped and then this property was redeveloped, right?
Yes,
And the larger building is occupied by Ride Time,
yes.
and that's a used car, they bring cars in generally from the States, sell them. And the other building is a money market, correct? Does the department define that use as office or retail?
Normally, when I looked at my comparables, it was under more of a retail, but under this particular property, when it was added, it's under an office.
And that's how. Oops, sorry, my button's out, but that's embarrassing. And so if we look at, I just want to turn for a moment. So if we look at just the Ride Time building for a moment, it will have a front section where, let's say the paperwork is processed. Generally speaking, they don't have showrooms. It's a lot like Not Auto, right?
I've actually never been in.
But
Right.
have you been to Not Auto?
No.
No? Okay. So they have some, like a service garage at the back where they detail the cars and so forth. I'm testifying, so I'll keep it to questions. Okay.
I guess in response, I agree, it's not like your typical Honda or
Yeah.
Toyota.
And in fact, in terms of a vehicle car dealership, would you agree that the land area associated with this property is significantly deficient for the operation of a vehicle car dealership?
I think based on the land of plan area, it would be lower. I've seen some that are around 10, I guess, and this one's at 5.88.
But you also have on here using some of the site, the money market.
Yes, then
So-
I'm guessing that that building, plus I'm not sure how much parking they have to have per the bylaw, so.
But you would agree with me that the land area available to the car dealership
Put the cars in.
is lower than you would normally find in other car dealerships?
I would say the ones I've looked at in like down Regent and Auto Malls.
Fair enough. So I just want to turn your attention to your rental comparables on page 5. Now, you've shown a list of rental comparables here, which you've indicated are retail. Let's talk firstly about the ones under the heading retail. You indicated that they are retail, they are big box generally.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
big box stores.
But that's not the subject property's use, right?
No.
And you'd agree with me that in the Oak Point Highway area, there are no big box stores along that whole run, right?
No, I would agree in that area there is not.
So if there was a demand for that kind of use in that area, one would have been built probably.
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to now turn your attention to the auto comparables that you show your numbers 28 through 31. Now the first one is 1284 Main Street, sorry, number 28. That's the MPI Service Center.
Yes.
Are you confident in that rentable area?
No, from my understanding, that doesn't include the basement space.
And you'll be aware, are you not, that in a hearing of the 2020 appeal on that property, the city utilized a rentable area of 44,000 square feet?
Yes, you showed me that it was a different lease.
And in fact, you have that in front of you, right?
Yes.
You would agree with that is what the city used on that appeal?
For that appeal, there was a 44,000 square foot lease.
And in fact, that's how the city has assessed that property, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that would affect the rental rate downward substantially, right?
Yes, and I never reviewed that mailer in depth, so I'm not sure.
And that's fine. This was a built-to-suit property, are you aware of that?
For the MPI, I would assume it was, but yes.
Okay. Not a car dealership, generally some offices and a drive-in area. I attended there with my son.
Yeah.
There's a drive-in area, no hoist, not garage finish, just almost like an open warehouse, right?
Yes.
One door in, one door out.
Mhm.
And the other three properties you show here, numbers 29 through 31, are auto dealerships?
I think they were to do with, from my understanding, the, across from Unicity Mall,
Yeah, so,
properties that had sold there.
so do you know if those properties are, let's come at this another way, who are the tenants in them?
For these ones?
Auto dealerships by and large
I think-
are owner occupied, and you agreed with that in your
Mhm.
evidence, right?
So these, from my understanding, one is a Boyd and one is the Auto Gallery, so they wouldn't be a true,
Right,
like a dealership.
okay. Do you, and the comparable you show at 2537 Pembina, do you know what that is?
From my understanding, it was a dealership, or I thought it was a Frontier, I don't know if it was a Subaru, but
Okay.
it could be.
And so if we look on the next page, on your page 6, you also show there 2536, and you see there, it looks like there's more than one here if we look at your number. I'm looking at your page 6 now.
Mhm.
Your number 1 and your comparable number 6, same contract, same exercise date. We're aware that 1496 Region is a Pattison Group property.
Which property?
Pattison Group,
No.
they're a client, so you're.
Okay.
Okay. And so from this information, would you conclude that the transactions were related and that it was the sale or the acquisition of the dealership business with that real estate?
I didn't look at, these were given by a coworker to submit. Unfortunately, I'm not putting weight on them. I didn't really get to review them myself, so I didn't think they would be.
Now, just for clarification, you've shown some information on your page 7, which, if I'm reading
I
this.
think that's reflective of page 6.
Right, but
Yeah.
and it perhaps it's just a typo,
Mhm.
but it looks like the address is 2527, which is, I have some familiarity with as well.
I'm guessing it should be 2537.
Okay, and that's fine, if it's a
Yeah.
typo, yeah, that's fine. And so, I just want to turn you now to your cap rates on page 10.
Mhm.
So we're gonna be talking today about Red River Co-op gas stations,
Mhm.
which also have car washes, and we're gonna be talking about vehicle service garages, for example, body shops and truck maintenance facilities, yes.
Mhm.
With those in your mind, which category in your mind would that apply to?
Unfortunately, based on the categories we have here, I'm not sure which ones they would fit into. From my understanding, with the office properties I've dealt with, the cap rates would fall between the ranges of the 1.55 and the 9.05 in our portfolio. That's all I can.
For the money mark portion, but we're talking here about the ride time
Mhm.
building. But, and so really, if you had to pick one, which one would you pick?
For the ride time,
Yeah.
I guess it would be a retail, but I'm not sure what it would fall into.
Okay.
They're providing a product.
Fair enough. In terms of your general approach today, you're in here defending the model values that have been generated?
Yes,
And that would mean model rents
yes,
and model vacancy rates, model shortfall rates, model capitalization rates.
yes.
But we're not, it's unclear whether there's some blurring of the lines between the categories with respect to cap rates, right?
Yes.
And you indicated, if I heard you correctly earlier, that car dealerships are, for the most part, owner occupied in the city.
Yes.
Certainly the new car dealerships, right? There are a couple of used car dealerships that are rented, yes?
I'm unsure. Haven't dealt with them.
Fair enough, okay. Those are my questions on this property, and I'm hoping we'll be able to move the other ones along because some of them will apply.
Of course.
And if I can just as soon ask an answer is fine.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hutchins, questions of the assessor?
Yes, to confirm, Ms. Santucci, both buildings are owner occupied and owned by the same?
That was my understanding from reading the notes and then the mailer. I'm
Okay.
unsure.
Yeah.
I was kind of concerned about the money mark, but there was nothing here to show it was, that they checked off fully owner occupied, so,
Okay,
thank you.
yeah. That's my only question, thank you.
So I'm also gonna ask about the Money Mart. I'm just wondering how that can be owner occupied.
I'm not sure if there's like I don't think it's like a franchise thing we buy in, is it? Okay, then that's the only thing I could think about is
Well,
that.
it's, and I don't want to testify, but it's, and so I won't.
Okay, so then, and I'm also, okay, assuming that having a Money Mart there with the car dealership would be appropriate.
There's a reason it's there type of thing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know if it would be in that location.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I just didn't know that money, anyway.
The Money Mart operation is not geared to used car loans, it's geared to paycheck loans,
That's what I thought.
payday loans, so yeah, very different business structure, yeah.
Interesting.
Traffic for Route 9 north.
I guess, yeah.
Okay. And again, you have, sorry, just regarding your cap rates, page 10 of your brief,
Yes.
yeah, so there's no category
No,
technically.
and unfortunately, I don't think I'm not sure if there's ever been, from my understanding when I asked my coworkers,
Right,
it's always kind of been this setup.
right, I know, yes, and when we move on to gas stations, it'll be the same,
Oh,
so.
okay.
All right, thank you. Mr. Borgstrom,
So,
if you'd like to present?
yeah, and I'm gonna just briefly talk about the property in terms of its physical description. It's a used automobile sales dealership, as we've already discussed, and which has office space and a service department. There's also a standalone office building. The warehouse is used as the, I don't know if that's accurate. If we show a picture on page 4 of what the development on this site was prior to them redeveloping it. The building you see at the bottom of the, or sort of in the center, but the one closest to the bottom, used to be a Robin's Donuts. The other one I think used to be a Humpty's Restaurant. Ride Time occupied that property as its center for business operations, and they subsequently demolished and rebuilt. I had included the post, okay. So what you see now on the bottom of page 3 is how it's developed now. And so when they redeveloped, and you will see on page 4, you'll see that there is a number of access points from North Point Highway. That was reduced to a single point after they rebuilt the structure. So the city of Winnipeg decreased their access and egress points on this property from Oak Point, which is the primary traffic artery north-south at that location. And I can also tell you that the owner originally had 15 of their staff parking along Selkirk Avenue. There were some complaints lodged with the city. They are now required to park on the lot, which further reduces the available parking for their inventory. So there are some issues with site size. The configuration contributes to some of that as well. It's not a rectangular lot that quite often you'll see is much more conducive to rows of vehicles up and down. We took a look at a number of rental comparables on page 8 for the vehicle car dealership. The best one, I would suggest, is the one actually at 1322 Waverly Street. Now it's quite a bit older, but that's the not auto. They have, at their own cost, put a sort of a branding on the outside. They also have a number of heated individual structures on that site that they use for repairs and body work. At the non-location, I did the appeal on it, so this cycle's I can talk to you about it. The other properties are vehicle service related. Some are tire stores, some are body shops, 1870 King Edward, I believe we'll be talking about today during this hearing. And so based on all of that, given the age of the property, we've applied $11 per square foot to the vehicle car dealership, to the entire floor area. We've applied 4% as vacancy, 4.5% as shortfall. If the property was a vehicle service garage or vehicle service related, that's what it would have, is 4% vacancy, 4.5 shortfall. Non-recovered expenses, we've had the discussion many times this cycle. We continue to apply 7%, and we have applied a 7.15% cap rate to the vehicle car dealership, same rate as the city. We also took a look at the office. I believe that the money mark is actually an arm's length lease. I don't have any information to the contrary. Certainly not within our files. So we took a look at it. It's at $17.57 a square foot. That's the rate that the city has applied. That's the rate that we've adopted. The money mark is not on a net lease or a gross lease, and there's trying to figure out how to allocate from the office building to the vehicle car dealership with the difference in the land sizes and use. So we went with the city's rent. 5.5 vacancy, no disagreement. 7% shortfall, no disagreement. Again, non-recovered expenses at 7%. 5.55% for whether you want to call it retail or whether you want to call it office in this location is, in our view, not an appropriate rate. We have filed a separate office capitalization rate study with our filings today. Based on that information, we applied 6.5% to that stabilized net operating income. We've gone, the other thing I wanted to show you really quickly before we get there is on page 14. This is a view of the property from Selkirk Avenue. So you are looking southwest, and if you drill the hole through the building, you'd look at Oak Point Highway. So you can see there are 3 access points or loading doors at the rear. So really it was designed almost like a warehouse in terms of its wall height and its loading capacities. Obviously grade level and not dock level. And so it is, in my view, most akin to either a warehouse or a body shop, that kind of thing. So we'll go through the mathematics on page 11 for the 2 income streams as separated up in the city, OFS and vehicle car dealership. And we go through the mathematics, as I said, on page 11, and we're looking for a reduction to $2,469,000. Please let me know if I'm starting to talk too quietly. Come along.
And you're done?
I am, thank you.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were gonna move on to something else. Miss Santucci, questions?
Just a question on page 8.
Yep.
Which comparables would be similar vehicle service related?
Well, 1322 is not auto, so that's a very similar operation. Now, the buildings on that site are older, and they have much more square footage than this one does in terms of their availability, but they also have a huge amount of land there. And with all of that, it's 42 a square foot. And so that, in looking at the entire picture, considering the property is fairly new, I selected 11 as the appropriate rate.
Okay. So you, did you put weights on? I'm just curious about comparables 1 and 6. I noticed those were warehouses.
Actually, they're not. All of these comparables are vehicle service related, and I'm happy to go through them if you'd like. 329 Oak Point is actually a standalone building. I did the appeal on it this last couple of cycles. It is a separate standalone building off to one side. It's a semi-gross basis where the owner pays the insurance and the property tax. I've personally inspected that property. They do vehicle repairs in there. 1870 King Edward, we're gonna be talking about today, so you'll have some familiarity with that. Lawson is similarly, it's a standalone building, where the owner recovers only property tax. He doesn't recover insurance or snow clearing on that site. It's also a standalone building on that site. The property on Moray is actually 700 Moray, that's Moray Auto Body. 120 King Edward is Boyd Auto Body. 344 Oak Point Highway is Denray Tire. Was leased, it was subsequently actually bought by the tenant, but that was the lease rate for that term in place. 84 Skirtfield is a Boyd Auto Body again. 72 Skirtfield is a vehicle service related facility, and 1322 Waverly is again non-auto.
Okay. I was under the understanding that comparable number 6 was a transit truck warehouse when I looked.
Two separate structures, owner occupied in one, and he's actually converted I inspected the property.
Okay.
He has converted the transit truck warehouse, very low ceiling height, to a storage warehouse for the custom trucks for the business next door. But on that site is a separate standalone building occupied by, I meant to bring the printouts, but I did not. I can tell you that that is leased on an arm's length basis, and it is a standalone occupancy.
Okay. That's all my questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings.
Yes, Mr. Boardroom. Okay, you know, yeah, let's stay with that page 8. Which were the Boyd Auto Body numbers, properties? I got number 5, 120 King Edward.
Yep, also 84 Skirtfield, number 7.
84, okay.
Number 4 is Moray Auto Body.
Number 4, on Moray Street. No, but I was wondering about the Boyd Auto Body ones.
Yes.
Just those two?
Those are Boyd's, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Did they build those buildings for themselves, or they lease them?
They lease them
They do lease them.
from arm's length ownership.
Okay,
We work both of those properties, and I can speak to personal knowledge of it.
okay. Then I'm gonna go to your summary on page 11.
Okay.
I'm just looking at the potential rent
Mhm.
on OFS. So on the money mart, I guess we'll call it. So you're using $17.57 a square foot?
So a total of $28,815.
I think you referred to it somewhere. I
And
can't
if
find it.
you look at the assessor's page 9, that is the rent that the city has applied.
Okay, and that's what you're using?
Mhm.
Okay. And then for the vehicle dealership, you're using $11 a square foot?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's based on,
Well, a number of the comparables, vehicle car dealerships, generally speaking, they're typically owner occupied,
Right.
as is this property.
so what are you using for your comps?
Well, certainly non-auto is a comparable.
No, sorry, what page are you using, I guess what I mean? So I can,
All of the comps for that are shown on page 8.
page 8, okay.
Yes.
So your analysis there came up with, a medium of 680. Okay. So then you picked $11 because of the age and maybe the style of the.
Not so much the style, it isn't what you describe as a typical, if you were gonna build a car dealership.
No, that's okay.
That's how it would be.
That's answered, thank you. Okay, so, now let's look at the assessor detailed a sale on the property in 2007 for $1 million. And then you had pictures of the
Previous,
page 4 and
Yeah.
page, so that was the situation, I guess, well, I'm not sure when this was taken, but that would
Well, the
reflect
gate
the
is
$1
on
million
here, let me see
purchase.
if I can make it out.
Yeah. So you said they scraped everything,
Yes, and now they
and
have,
they repositioned it on page 3?
well, not just repositioned, but changed everything.
Okay,
And
so
that's-
I
that's
just wanted to
on
confirm
page
that,
3, yeah.
I'm just trying to confirm, so the lot line is where the truck dealership next door, where the trucks are backed in, is that the lot line?
Yeah, you can see the blue line that delineates, not very far,
Okay.
I'll say, not very far east of the subject buildings.
So it's to the right, and it's probably the width of 2 cars parked at an angle and then a driveway, would that be?
Well, I would say less. In fact, if you look at it, it's one row of cars parked on the
Okay,
angle.
so what was and that was built in 2016, what was the cost to construct these 2 new buildings?
I have no idea.
Okay, so no permits available. Ms. Santucci, would you have any information on cost to construct?
Combined, it was around 2 million from what I had to add together, but
Okay,
again, this was just, I don't always take the permit numbers.
Right.
If it doesn't say that they've confirmed it, that was just kind of what
it
we
could
had
be on the
recently.
low side.
Yeah, it could be.
Or not be accurate. how's
Yeah.
that? Yeah, okay, so $2 million, okay. Plus an original sale of 1 million, but we don't know if that include a business interest, or I'm not sure if you have.
All I had was that it was just, there was properties there before and
Yeah,
they were then later demolished.
okay. Okay, so what would your blended rate be on those 2, Mr. Borgstrom, on the leasable area, 2 buildings?
I punched all the numbers right, it works out to 1162 a square foot.
Okay, thank you. And the blended cap rate would be 7.05, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And the assessor's at 6.94. Okay. Okay. That's all my questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bergstrom, I just have one question on your cap rate. On the office portion,
Mhm.
you've got it at 6.5, and this is a fairly new build, 2016.
Yep, so let me just
So if
quickly.
you want to refer to your,
Yep, let's
Yep.
just have a quick peek at it. Give me a moment, getting my hands on it.
Sure.
Oh, there we go. It's right in the file. That never happens. So I am happy to go through the entire study if you want, but I'm also happy to just tell you how we got here.
Yes.
Okay, so if we take a look at our page 6 of the capitalization rate study for office properties, you'll see there a table, and for suburban office buildings, we have a range based on our evidence of between 6.25 and 7.5. In this location, I thought it warranted something, a little bit of an adjustment, and that's why I applied 6.5%.
Okay. Thank you. Did you have a chance to inspect?
I have not.
Okay. And, excuse me, Ms. Santucci, I redirect to you, but you didn't have a chance to inspect this property?
I did not, there was no photos from the new construction, so
Okay. Do you have anything in your notes when it was last inspected?
it would have been, I think, for the new construction in 2016 when it was added.
Right, but
So,
you
but
don't have any
unfortunately, no
information.
photos were taken,
Okay.
no.
Has your office ever inspected it, or is this new to you?
I believe, I'm going to preface it with that, I believe this is a new client.
Okay.
I think. Yeah. From what I read.
From what you read.
Well, I looked at the previous appeals and I was like, oh, it hasn't been appealed before.
Oh.
So I was like,
yes,
oh.
Yeah, so.
Okay. Thank you both, and we are going to move on to Item 8, 1621 St. Mary's.
What address is this? Sorry.
It is 1621 St. Mary's.
Ah, sorry.
It's out by my favorite store,
So did you have this down?
Danville and Jones.
Going 189
I
and
got
then
it now. Yeah, okay.
all over the place.
Yeah, got it. I didn't shift them. Okay. So we'll do these two, right? Back to back. 1621 and 651. Okay, right on. Got it.
Okay, whenever you're ready, Ms. Santucci.
Thank you. This is file number 19-4093, roll number 08020969900. Address is 1621 St. Mary's Road. We have the actual year built of this gas station as 2004, and we have a leasable area of 4,242 square feet. If you turn to page 2, I have some aerial photos of property. It's located on St. Mary's and the corner of Vista Avenue. The bottom photo is just an exterior photo of the property. Page 3, the request for information that was received. We have no subject sale history, and the subject property is fully owner occupied. On page 4, I have the income workup for the stored kiosk with pumps. We have a leasable area of 2,394 square feet and a rent per square foot of $35.61. We have the vacancy loss at 2, expenses at 2, and shortfall at $6. And we have an overall capitalization rate of 6.15%. It comes to an estimated market value of $1,844,000. And we also, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, we have the additional building value of the $517,000, which would include the pumps and the tanks, the accessible property. On page 5, we have the vehicle car wash income stream. We have 1,848 square feet at a rate of $9.91. We have the vacancy loss of 2, expenses at 2, and a shortfall of $4.50 per square foot. This one has a lower capitalization rate of 5.4%. So it'd give us an estimated value of $323,000. On page 6 is my comparables. So for this, we have the annual pad site rent, and then we've divided it by either the store kiosk pumps area or the vehicle car wash area. My comparable one would also be a larger store kiosk area at the 2,250 square feet with a vehicle car wash on site. That comes out to a rate of, for the store of $40.25, and for the car wash, $10.50. Pointing to comparable 5, we have a smaller store area, but we also have the vehicle car wash. With the smaller store area, we have the higher store rate per square foot of $65.94, and then the car wash at $10.50. Comparable 6 also has a bigger store area, and then we have the $29.91 for that one per square foot. And then I think the comparable 12 we have as $42.92 per square foot and $10.50 applied to the car wash. And then the bottom 2 comps, 13 and 14, are car wash comps. We have comparable 13 coming in at $7.72, and the one located on McPhillips 14 at $14.51. If you turn to page 7, I just have my income value summary. Combined, we have the net operating income of $99,010 and a capitalization rate of 6%, to give us an estimated market value of $2,167,000. On page 8 is my model drive capitalization rates. 9 is municipal excerpts, and on page 10 is the 2017 income and expense questionnaire, just to show that it is fully owner occupied. And on page 12 is the addenda that I've already gone over. My recommendation today is to maintain the 2020 assessed value of the $2,167,000. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Webster?
I do, just bear with me for one moment here. So if I understand the city's approach to gas stations in general, the model used the pad leases?
Well, the model rates are model derived, and for our comparables, we're using the pad leases to defend our model.
Do you know how the model rates were derived?
I was not a part of creating the models.
And so typically gas stations in the city are either owner occupied or there is a pad lease in place and not a rent of the buildings, right?
Yes.
And so, again, can you explain how the model can, or how did the model come up with a rate to assign to the initial assessment?
I cannot speak to how the model was created yet, sorry.
So in terms of, let's come at this another way. In terms of the property in general, on this site is a two-tunnel car wash, correct?
Yes.
And the pumps and tanks and canopies, correct?
Yes.
And there's also a structure separate and apart, standalone, that houses the retail store, right?
Yes.
And so, if I understand the city's approach correctly, the car wash is assessed separately and valued separately.
Yes.
And similarly, the tanks, pumps, and canopies are valued separately, correct?
Yes.
And if we take a look at the picture on your page, sorry, I'm skipping around here. I believe it's 2. Both the car wash is the structure towards the north end of the site, towards St. Mary's Road, right?
Yes.
And then the pumps, tanks, and canopy, each of those would occupy their own land area, right?
Like the,
The car wash occupies an area of the site.
yes.
And similarly, the pumps, tanks, and canopies occupy an area of the site.
Yes.
You'll agree with me that it is not the business value that we are to assess here, correct?
It's the property.
Property tax, and so what we're talking about is the bricks and the mortar and the underlying lands, right? Okay. Now, because we've already valued them separately, if we take away the car wash and the pumps and tanks and canopies, they've already been valued separately with their own lands. Would you agree with me that what we have left is a retail store?
It would be the convenience store.
Right, and that's what's left, so you have the bricks and mortar of a retail convenience store, or just any retail store.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to take a look, just really briefly. The city has applied a shortfall rate of $6 to the convenience store and $4.50 per square foot on the car wash, correct?
Yes.
So if we take a look at the income and expense questionnaire, and it's gonna be the same for all the properties we're talking about today, if we consider only the property taxes, do you know how much that is per square foot?
Pardon?
So if we look at your page 10,
Yes.
you show that if we consider only the property taxes as an expense. Well, if a property was vacant, landlord would be responsible for those taxes,
Mhm.
right? So at 33,849, do you know what that works out to per square foot?
For the entire land area?
For the entire building area.
Oh, for the
Shortfall is
building area.
calculated on the basis of building area, correct?
Okay, yes. So $7.50 98 cents.
very nearly $8. And so, can you explain how the model can come up with 450 and 6?
Those were the model
Model
parameters,
rates.
yes.
And if we consider the $6 rate on the convenience store, that's actually a retail shortfall rate, isn't it?
I'm not sure, I'm not known to the retail parameters, unfortunately.
I know I put them in the bag, it's just a matter of whether I can find it. I can't lay my hands on it. You won't disagree with me that a retail shortfall rate is $6 a square foot.
If you've dealt with retail properties, you probably have a better idea than I unfortunately do.
In terms of the 2% vacancy rate that's been assigned to this, now, we know that last cycle the department applied a similar rate to big box stores, and there was some debate about that, and ultimately the city changed it for this cycle. When we're looking at car washes and gas stations, when they go vacant for long term, right?
Yes.
In fact, there are a large number of sites around the city that either have vacant gas stations on them, or they've been removed, the improvements have been removed, and the sites are sitting empty, right?
I can think of a few, but not a ton.
Can you tell me how the model then comes up with 2% as a vacancy rate?
I cannot tell you how the model would come up with it. I would assume, based on, I know dealing with office properties, if properties experience higher vacancies, then the vacancy is usually higher, but for a property like this, for the most part, it's not vacant, so I'm assuming that's why they have the lower rate.
On the car wash component, the shortfall rate seems to mirror vehicle service garages, right?
For this year, I would think, I haven't gone through too many of them.
And vehicle service garages attract a 4% vacancy rate.
I'm not 100% sure. For one of mine, I would assume that they would all be similar to 4% then.
And just in terms of your capitalization rates on page 8, which of the categories would fit the subject property?
I would think it would be more of a retail, usually located in retail spaces.
Those are my questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchins.
No questions, thank you.
Just have one question. I think you were going down this road, Mr. Borgstrom. On page 4 of your brief, the 517,000 that's assigned to the pumps, tanks, and canopy.
Yes.
So, how does the city come up with that?
We assess
Is there-
it.
Okay,
Oh,
sorry, I'll let
sorry.
you answer it. I was gonna start questioning.
I know when I've added new construction for the properties, it's based on obviously modeled rates, but we would add in the size of the tanks, how many tanks there are, how many pumps there are. And that's what we would add as the added value. That's common what we've done.
Okay. So then, I'm just wondering then, why would we be given a breakdown of that?
I did not include a breakdown.
Okay.
I've never
Sorry.
done a car, I've never, I think I've only done one before, and I was told that in the future to add, I can add the breakdown and then show how it's the value and then the depreciation on it, and then
Okay.
how we come up with the 517, so that's
Okay.
my fault for not
No, actually,
Yeah.
I've been on a couple now, and I haven't seen a breakdown.
One of my coworkers pointed it out to me, so, and they had mentioned that they add it in theirs, so I'm not sure. Mr. Spacek
Okay.
had said that to me, so.
All right. And would age have anything to do? I'm assuming these things have a longevity attached to the tanks being buried, et
Yes.
cetera.
So, when I first added them in, for example, when I did the new construction, the depreciation was lower, but as time goes on, they do depreciate, and we do take that off the original, I guess, the value we apply to it.
Okay. So do you know on this brief how many tanks there are?
I do not.
And pumps? I was sort of looking at the picture, I'm assuming,
There's about 8 stands, and then there would be, on each 8, there would be 2 sides.
yeah.
So 16, and then typically from some of them I've added, they can have anywhere from 2 tanks to 3 tanks, depending on how big they are underground.
Okay, that's my question,
I
thank
do
you.
have just a quick follow-up arising. The adjustment for pump tanks and canopy is actually cost-based, correct?
I would think that that would be, or is it through Marshall Swift?
That's-
I would- Okay,
You'd agree with that?
that, yes.
And you'd agree with me that the city's modeling, I believe, uses a 50-year age life table?
I cannot recall the life table,
And that's
so.
fine. Are you aware that Marshall suggests somewhere between 25 and 30 years for gas stations, and there's a similar age life for tanks?
I haven't gone in detail with the Marshall Swift, so.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, if you'd like to proceed.
I do, and I have some below. The assessor's already received a copy of hers, and
Okay.
one for each file.
You already have one, thank you.
So I'm gonna start, the pages are numbered in the bottom right-hand corner, fairly bolded and a little bit italicized. So I'm gonna start at page 4. This is a reproduction or a copy of the, this portion of the city's brief for 2615 Phillips, but it's the same chart in every one. These are pad leases. I can tell you that from talking to Domo and other gas operators, they make the decision on the rent that they're prepared to pay in any given site based on what they think they can generate in terms of revenue in that location. Gas sales are high volume and low margin. Means they make very little per liter of gas that they pump. Their big goal is to get people into the stores and buying the goodies inside there, lottery tickets, sometimes cigarettes, sometimes candy. All of these rental comparables are pad leases, and to show you the danger of relying on those pad leases, I'm going to draw your particular attention to comparable on page 4, number 11. That is the property located at Henderson and McLeod. The original convenience store was built in 1996. A couple of years ago, they scraped it. They pushed the building back, and I'll show you the details of that in a moment. They pushed the building back, they made the building bigger, and they also added 2 double pumps. So they added a total of 4 additional pumps to what was on the site. So that then leads you to a distorted rate per square foot, and that really highlights the danger of relying on pad leases in terms of trying to figure out what they should be, or trying to impute a rent from a land lease. So let me just take you really quickly. I can show you on page 5. This is these are excerpts of the city's brief on this same property from 2018 appeal. If we turn to page 6, it's exactly the same chart. Nothing has changed on there. They haven't amended the rents a penny. I can show you on page 7, this is the property, the Red River Co-op that I was talking about at the corner of Henderson and McLeod. This is an excerpt of the city's brief, and you'll see there, that just confirms a plan area that used to be 560 square feet for a convenience store. I show on page 8 a change in the development. You'll see at the top on page 8, that was a picture taken from the street, on Google Street, circa 2015. You'll see there, they have the 2 sets of double pumps, total of 8 pumps, in a 560 square foot C-store. You look at the bottom picture, they've scraped everything, they took down the canopy, the tanks, they redid it, and now they have 12 operational gas tanks, and they've increased the size of the convenience store to 1,685 square feet. The rent hasn't changed a penny on that site. We show additional confirmation of all of that on pages following, and I don't intend to belabor it. I do want to show you that the lease reported by the city as net is in fact not accurate. Now, we happen to have access to this property. We don't have for almost all of the other ones. You'll see there on our page 4, I made a notation that the rent is actually $73,850 net. And if you turn to page 17 just briefly, you'll see there that they have a total of $39,020 in recoverable expenses, but they only recovered $33,376. So it's not a true net rent. They don't recover all of the operating expenses on this site. This is a single occupant property. It's owned by the Schindlemans, and Red River leases from them in this location. The other thing I just want to point out, and I will get into it more clearly in my brief, the lease agreement also includes signage. They're not charged for it, it's included as part of the lease, but that pylon isn't on the subject site, it's on the adjacent wall where you have the Tims and the, I can't remember which building, it used to be a Olympic Library. There's a pizza joint in there. It's a strip mall dating back to, I believe, the 60s, certainly the 70s. So its signage for the Red River Co-op is actually on the adjacent wall. All of that is included within the lease rate there. And so with that, I believe that is the information I wanted to cover with respect to the rebuttal. Happy to answer questions about that.
Thank you. Questions, Ms. Santucci?
I guess my only question is, on page 18, from my understanding, what the city would have used then is just the rent actual times by 12 months and the square footage that was listed on the mailer for that property.
Except that you're coming in here now, and let me just turn you back to page 4. This is the same information, but as of the reference date, that's not the size anymore. It's now 1,685 square feet, and I provided verification of that certainly on our page 10.
Oh yes, I don't agree that's what it is now, but when we take stuff from the mailers, we take exactly what's from the mailer, we don't adjust it.
And that's the danger of using the bad leases.
But that is still what they paid for that space.
Absolutely, they paid net $73,850 for that pad, but it distorts the imputed rent that the department seems to be trying to apply to gas stations.
I think that's my only question.
Thank you.
Yeah, just for clarification, Mr. Works, from page 4. So I think you're, okay, as I understand it, 1070 Henderson Highway is owned by Shindeco, the pad site?
That whole development is owned by Shindeco.
So they built the buildings and everything, and the gas pumps?
I don't know of a fact, well, I can tell you that Red River built the structure.
Okay.
They scraped what was there, and I believe they built it.
Okay, so Shindeco is renting the land underneath the co-op, Red River Co-op development for, we made an adjustment for $74,000.
And co-op is paying their rent based on what they think they can generate.
So Red River Co-op National pays the rent, or is that location?
Red River Co-op is a Winnipeg company.
Wow.
Winnipeg-based, the co-ops outside of Winnipeg are different co-ops.
Okay, yeah, I understand that.
I work for, across the province.
It's
I
okay,
work
I
for the
understand,
co-ops.
I understand, Mr. Boardroom. I'm trying to understand if the pad site is paid by that gas station, or are they independently owned, or are they?
All of the Red River co-ops within the city
Okay,
are owned
by Red River Co-op.
by Red River Co-op.
Okay, so then the pad site, okay, now, is there,
Just to be absolutely clear, there are no franchises.
okay, yeah, okay. So is there, I think we've heard evidence in the past of the landowner getting a percentage of this gas sales.
Yeah, that is not indicated on the lease for Henderson. I
Well,
don't
it's-
know about the other locations.
Nobody will admit that to anybody. I mean, that's really private.
Well,
We've never had anybody.
And frankly, I've been dealing with the gas stations across the province for a number of years now, and I have never received any indication that any property that is leased pays a percentage rent. The margin, to be really frank, the margins on gas are so skinny.
Yeah, because,
I can't even imagine that they would do that.
well, okay, but I guess I don't like to drag any other hearings in, but I personally heard information that's contrary to that with some larger national chains.
And that's
where they are
possible.
paying-
It's certainly not the case with Red River, to my knowledge.
To your knowledge, you don't know if it is or not?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
okay. And this is only relevant to that Henderson location? For their instance, the one on
The-
Roblin Boulevard or on Pembina Highway or?
Well, Roblin Boulevard, they own.
Red River Co-op
Yeah,
does?
Pembina Highway, they own.
Okay,
So for them to
Yeah.
lease lands at a location is rare.
yeah,
They
okay.
typically buy. And the Roblin location, actually, it was no longer operational, but they bought the site of former Charles Wood.
Yeah, the hotel, yeah.
And they scraped it.
Yes, that's right.
And I didn't get into the other point I wanted to bring up in the rebuttal. But the city has applied a total rent of, I wrote it down, I can't remember where it is. But the pad leases, if that's what we're considering here, all would lead us to a lower overall rent, total potential income, than the city has applied.
Okay,
in its
so
case.
that pad lease on 1070 started in January 1995, and you're saying to this day, it hasn't increased?
That's not my testimony. I believe it has stepped up over the years.
Okay.
What I have included here is verification of what the income was for 2017.
So you're saying that the building has increased, but you're not, I know you're disputing the assessor's evidence, but you're saying the building has increased, but the pad site, you're implying hasn't increased, but I think probably maybe you're gonna present it has increased?
The rent on the pad has not increased.
Okay,
But when you look at the mathematical calculation that the city is trying to impute to the building areas, that has changed drastically.
but again, that lease is still $73,850
Net.
now? Current, like
Well,
relevant?
and
to this appeal?
that's what we show.
Yeah. I know this is rebuttal, so I'm just
Yeah,
trying to.
and so we've actually provided a copy of that on our page 18. And it started in 1995 and runs through 2037. So they're there for another number of years.
Okay.
And the actual revenues from that we show on our page 17.
Sorry, I can't read the headings, but okay.
Yeah, these are, you'll see that they're stamped, and it's how the department scanned them and stored them. It's as clear as we can get as a copy.
So on page 18, they're still showing 580 square feet.
Yep.
But this is the city's rent roll, right? Is that right, or?
Well, this is what was submitted to the city.
Okay.
Now, they,
So that's what this assessor's presenting, because that's what they,
yeah, and they might not have amended.
yeah.
This is from Shinnecoe, and you can see verification of that on page 14. You'll see there that the questionnaire is signed by Diane Schindlerman, VP Corporate Finance.
Okay. That's what she submitted, that's what the assessor has, that's why she presented, but that's why that spreadsheet is presenting it, right?
Well, except that the city has records that, certainly they've got the permits, they've got the construction records, they've got the occupancy permit, which demonstrate, or which should demonstrate to them that there is a new structure on this site with a different size.
So I guess Shinnecoe should be submitting the correct
So
evidence to
let
it.
me take.
No, it's ask and answer, thank you, that's good. That's all I want to know was the situation there, thank you.
Okay.
And I have no questions.
Okay. So, as I go through my information, I have also included within our information a copy of the city's workup for 2020, which very clearly shows the city has the records at 1685 square feet. We show that at page 11 and 12. And 10. So 10, 11, and 12 confirm the size at 1685 square feet according to city records. So as you will have, my turn?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
So as you will have gathered from the questioning of the assessor, we took a very different approach. As I outlined in questioning of the assessor, there are three separate things which are assessed or valued on this site. The car wash is one, the pumps, tanks, and canopies are another. And then what we're left with, as the assessor has agreed, is essentially a retail store. So to that end, I took a look at a number of retail rental comparables. It is, in my opinion, irrelevant what they're selling in these locations, whether it's mittens or toques or shoes. It's still a retail operation, and that's exactly what we have in the subject convenience store. I selected a number of properties, some slightly older than the property, built in 2004, so they're certainly within a decade. I've also gone with a newer development in Sage Creek. These are all in the southeast quadrant of the city. 1220 St. Mary's Road is not very far away from the subject property, and Northtown Road is actually across the river in Waverly West. So those are brand new properties, and we take a look at the rental range that provides there. So if this, given that the car wash is assessed separately, and given that the pumps, tanks, and canopies are valued separately, for the convenience store, my view is that we need to look to retail rents, and so that's what we've done. So based on all of that, we've applied $30 per square foot for a 2004 construction. We do not disagree with the rental rate on the car wash at $9.91 a square foot. And so we have a total rental rate of $83,498 in terms of revenue. The car wash already receives a 4% vacancy rate, sorry, a 2% vacancy rate, but 450 shortfall. There are, and I'm happy to go over them, there are a large number of examples of gas station operations that have gone dark, sometimes arising from the presence of a Red River Co-op gas station, sometimes not, sometimes arising from a change in provincial regulations, environmental regulations. Marginal operations kind of disappeared in the early 90s when those regulations changed. So we have applied 4%. We are using $6, which is the retail rate for the convenience store, $4.50 for the car wash. Well, $6 is the convenience store. We're using $6 overall. You'll recall I asked the assessor, just the property taxes are about $8 a square foot on this property, and so I've applied 6. We're going with 7% non-recoverable. We have provided our separate retail properties capitalization rate study for 2020 for the properties in the docket today. Based on that, I have applied a rate of 6.5% for that, and our conclusions within that retail capitalization rate study are found on page 13. And the conclusions from that is that most capitalization rates will range between 6.5% and 8%. This property is, as of the reference date, 14 years old. I've applied the very low end, I've applied the bottom end of our range at 6.5%. It has been one day, I apologize. 6.5% to our stabilized net operating income. We show the mathematics on page 10. And we go down the the left column under total. You see there the potential market net income. Interesting. It says 4, that should actually probably read 5 on page 9, because 5 is the rate that we've applied on page 10 in our calculations, 6.5% cap rate. You'll see there the adjustment at $517,000. There is no dispute with the city on that. And so we're looking for a reduction to $1,634,000 based on all of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
So for the vacancy, are you using the 5% then?
That's what we've used in our calculations. And in looking at the 5% that we applied, 6% is a standard retail model vacancy rate. It's 4% for our vehicle service related, which, when you think about the car wash, is closest to, somewhere in between is going to be 5, and I think that should be a consistent rate through the rest of the properties this evening.
And then for the car wash, you had mentioned that you had agreed with our number, but when I calculated the rent, potential net rent there, it works out to $8.91 a square foot. Didn't know if that was the number you wanted to go with.
There's a wrong number in there, yeah, so our formula is wrong, so if I might just run through the figures really quickly, sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, the vehicle car wash should be 2448 square feet. No, 1848. So, okay. City shows it as 1848, so we have used the right number. Let me just double check. You're quite right, yeah, that should read 18,314. So the potential net market income should be 18,314. $5 vacancy is $916. So we have a effective market income at $17,499. And our non-recoverables are recalculated at $1,224. Shortfall doesn't change. So our net operating income would be, for the vehicle car wash, would be amended to $15,851. And the total net operating income would be amended to $74,356. Value for that would be $1,144,000 rounded. So our revised, request would be $1,144,000. 661.
Sorry, Mr. Borgstrom, what's the number on the car wash?
The capitalized number? Okay. Sorry, for sure, cutting. 200, I'll round it,
Sure.
244,000.
Thanks. Okay.
And that was my only question.
All right, thank you.
Good catch.
I had it for you. You beat me to it. Okay, and just Mr. Borgstrom, so you are accepting the $517,000 pump and tank value?
For the purposes of this hearing, I can tell you, well, so based on the marshal, any properties that are going to this board obviously will be seeking an appropriate amount of depreciation on them, I think this board. I can tell you that the docket I had last week or January 9th, dealt with a number of the co-op stations. We didn't appeal any of the decisions.
Okay. Thank you.
I have no questions.
I don't know if that's good or not.
It is 6:30. Does anybody require a break now, or is everybody okay to take one more property?
I'm happy to do one more property, and actually the other gas station should go a lot faster.
Sure.
650.
Yeah, item number 9, Archibald?
Yeah. Got it.
And whenever you're ready.
Thank you. This is file number 19-4071, roll number 06-093-016-000. Address is 650 Archibald Street. This is a gas station with car wash, built in 2005. We have a leasable area of 3,636 square feet. If you turn to page 2, just an aerial shot of the gas station, where everything's situated on the property, and just an exterior photo. On page 3, just to show the income and expense information was received. Subject sale history from 2004. I didn't look into that. Subject property leases, fully owner occupied when I looked at the income and expense questionnaire. So for the page 4, I have the store kiosk pump income workup. We have 1,785 leasable for the store at $36.64 per square foot. So similar to the last one, we have the 2% vacancy, the 2% expenses, $6 shortfall, and a 6.15% capitalization rate. On page 5, we have the vehicle car wash. We have 1,851 square feet at $9.95. Same parameters again, 2% vacancy, 2% expenses, $4.50 shortfall for this one, and a 5.4% capitalization rate. On page 6 is my comparables. So as we've gone through, I would find these this subject most comparable, comparable 1, comparable 5, and comparable 12. Those ones all have stores with car washes, and for the most part a larger store area. Those go from $40.25, $65.94, and $42.92. On page 7 is my income value summary. So I have the combined net operating income of $80,119 with a capitalization rate of 5.97% to come up with the estimated market value of $2,138,000. Page 8 is the model drive capitalization rates, and most of my brief we've already gone through. Page 10 just shows the income and expense questionnaire that it's fully owner occupied. And my recommendation today is to maintain the 2020 assessed value of the $2,138,000. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Brookstrom?
I have all kinds of them, but I think we covered them off on the last property. So I have no additional questions. I'm good, thank you.
So, I just have one question about the pumps.
Yes.
I think the last property, which was also a co-op, I think you said it had 16?
This one has, yes, so the 8 spots with the 2 on each side, so 16, and then,
Sorry, I'm talking about the previous property
Oh,
on
yes.
St. Mary's. It
so
has
this one would have
16.
similar, yes, it looks
So
like.
it has 16 too?
Yes, and then I just don't know what's underground on this one, so there could be,
Because I'm just wondering about the difference between 796,000 on this one for the pumps, canopy, etc. And the other one was 517.
I think the age was only a year difference, so for depreciation, and then the only other difference could be tanks. So there could be more tanks in the ground, there could be bigger tanks in the ground,
Why?
just what they put in.
But if it's the
But
same
it-
number of
And
pumps.
if I might,
Oh, sorry.
sorry, and
It's what they put in. I know.
this is a much higher volume location than the location on St. Mary's Road, I would suggest, and so I believe that the tanks underground here are bigger.
Like if you look at a truck stop one, I had one before where it was I couldn't believe how many tanks were in the ground, it just, it varies
I
every
agree.
site.
Interesting.
I know,
Who knew gas stations were so interesting? Okay.
they are.
Sorry, this will, how deep do they have to be buried?
They're not terribly deep, and they're surrounded by.
Because you would need access to them.
Yeah, and there are P gravel roads. Well, no, the access point is in a concrete pad, and that's where the little lids are that, when you drive into them, you go ka-thunk, ka-thunk.
Mhm.
That's where the access points, but they're below that, right? So they will be several feet below grade.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Borgstrom?
Okay, as with the last property, and I should have discussed it or just touched on it already, so my approach for the gas stations, I think I mentioned in the last hearing, and I can't remember who was on that one. But for these types of properties built in the 90s, you're gonna find that I'm applying typically a $26 or $28 rent for a property, depending on the age. For properties that are built in the 2000s, I will typically apply $28 to $30 per square foot, and for properties, depending on the age, and for properties built in the 2010s, it'll be a little bit above that. So this, in terms of a retail location, is great for pumping gas, that's the business. Not so good in terms if it was a retail store location, period. But we've taken a look at a large number of comparables on page 8. They are almost all in the Keniston Common area, somewhere in the new development along Sterling Lion. Some are also in the Waverly West area, brand new construction. We took a look at those. Even all of those rents only average $28.50, give or take, average and median. We've still applied $30 for the rental rate on a convenience store. We don't disagree with the $9.95 per square foot on the car wash, and exactly the same approach as previously. It's got the same typo in there. The 4% vacancy should read 5. That's what I've applied, and I've provided my rationale. Shortfall rate again is $6, and if you go through the mathematics, it's going to be in excess of that given the square footage footprint of the building area. The reason I think that seems so high is that some of the property taxes are going to be related to the pump, tanks, and canopy, the assessment on that component. which, when you calculate it on the basis of building area, is gonna be a distortion. So if you include a value or an assessment, which carries property taxes, and then don't somehow account for those pumps, tanks, and canopies when you're calculating the shortfall rate on the building area, you're going to get a distorted value, so. That's why we're using 6. And similarly, for the same arguments we made on the previous property, 6.5% again, and so we're looking for a reduction to $1,760,000.
Questions?
No, I think the only thing is you clarified the typo, so I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Hutchins?
Which type?
The typo.
Okay. You know, I'm wondering where this, I'm not familiar with this location. Are we
Right.
south of Marion or?
Yeah, right beside the Thames.
Oh, okay, okay, just south of it, okay. Thank you. All right. That's my only question.
That's your only question?
So the Thames are high traffic.
I have no questions, thank you. Just need 1 second to write some
Mhm.
stuff down. One more before break?
I'm happy to carry on.
Do you need a break, really?
Yeah, if possible.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. We'll use some water. We'll take a little break.
So just as housekeeping, we have Red River properties remaining, 2535 Main, 2615 Phillips, and the last one we should cover because it addresses a compliance issue would be 1008 Keewatin, and that will cover off the gas stations today, I think.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to, I thought you wanted to go to Keewatin next.
Well, I suggested last. Same kind of valuation issues, but there's a compliance argument going to be involved there, which may,
Okay, so you want to do Keewatin last.
well, last of the gas stations. Sorry, yeah.
So then it's number 4, it's the next one, that's what you had said. You wanted 7 to be 4, because we
Well,
went 1, then we did 8, 9.
so if I might suggest, if we can do 2615 McPhillips or 2535 Main, I don't care which order, they're both similar. And then the last of the gas stations would be Keewatin, which is,
Okay, so, so next we'll do Main, McPhillips, then Keewatin.
sure,
Holy smokes.
thank you.
I'd like to call this hearing back to order. We are going to go to 2535 Main.
Yeah.
Is that where you
and I'm
wanted to
fine.
go?
Thank you.
Thank you. We just finished. Whenever you're ready, Senator Chin.
Thank you. This is file number 19-4077, roll number 05009-207800. Address is 2535 Main Street. Again, this is a pass bar, gas station with car wash. The actual year built was 2005, and we have a leasable area of 5,694 square feet. If you turn to page 2, We have an aerial photo, just showing the location, on Main Street, and bottom photos just the exterior. On page 3, the request for information for the response received. Subject sale, just some dated sale there. Subject property leases, fully owner occupied. Page 4 is the income workup for the store kiosk pumps. So for this property, we have a leasable area of 3,089 square feet, with $32.81 per square foot applied to this one for the rental rate. Same parameters, the 2% vacancy, 2% expensive, $6 shortfall, and an overall capitalization rate of 6.15%. So on page 5, we have the car wash portion. This with a leasable area of 2,605 square feet. The rental rate is $12.53 for this one. Vacancy loss of 2%, expenses of 2%, shortfall of $4.50 per square foot, and a capitalization rate of 5.4%. If we turn to page 6, I've gone through some of these comparables. Just the ones that specifically have the store with the gas station, with the car wash. And on page 7 is the income value summary. So combined, we have a net operating income of $128,080 and a capitalization rate of 5.95. So an estimated market value of $3,102,000. On page 8 is just the model drive capitalization rates. And if we turn to page 10, just the income and expense questionnaire shows it's fully owner occupied. And my recommendation today would be to maintain the 2020 assessed value of $3,102,000. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Boardroom.
Excuse me, I do have a couple of questions. So, generally speaking, the model will assign a higher rent to a smaller area, conversely, lower rent to a larger area. The car wash here,
It's coming in about,
605 square feet.
yeah, I'm not sure why it's coming in $2.50 higher than the other ones. I would say, I feel like $10.50, or if it ranged to 11, this one does seem on the higher end of car washes.
And the other ones were
They were
really-
both
really
$10,
close to 10,
yes,
$9.95.
for the same year built.
That's my question, thank you.
Thank you.
No questions, thank you.
Okay, pumps, now they're $9.49.
So it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Is it bigger?
6.
Lots of pumps.
6 rows, with 2 on each row, so 12, and then 2 sides, so 24.
Okay.
And then it would be then again dependent on the tanks.
Right.
It's
And
not,
this is the location that's quite a ways out on Main Street.
Yes, I would say it would be like that river bend.
Past, yeah, it's
like
past Chief
almost-
Peguis. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, so
river
this
bend
is
neighborhood.
very busy.
it's not the only game in town, but it's close to it.
I'd say a lot of traffic from, Lockport, St. Andrews.
Brazil.
Sorry, not meaning to take up time, but just out of curiosity, Red River seems to have had a plan because all of these were built around the same time and,
Well, they came into the market in a big way. They have some older stations, but they came into the market in a big way
yeah.
around that time, and they grew like gangbusters. And just as an aside, you'll notice that in locations where they opened up, very often operations of other gas retailers kind of closed.
Yeah.
The Esso station at the corner of Gateway and Klein. Beside that used to be a Mohawk in the little strip mall there with a propane tank. There was a gas bar there. They both went away. I can give you other examples, but when they open up,
Cash back.
who doesn't like getting a check in February? Yeah.
If you would like to give, oh, sorry, no, I have one question, I think you brought it up, sorry, the car wash, is the square footage higher because the car wash is bigger than the previous two?
Well, normally it's works on the
have-
economies of scale where it goes
I
down
was
as it gets
thinking.
larger, so I'm not sure what's up with this one. I know the model works by market regions, I don't know if there's something about this market region, but yeah, I would say like the standard would be like 10, 10, 50, 11 at the most, I would think.
Yeah.
So, this one seems like it's a bit higher for 1250.
And this wasn't inspected, so it's not, there's not some super deluxe
No.
car wash involved?
I don't even know if that's really an like, most of the time we just put them in as standardized, so.
Yeah,
Well, I don't want to, so
okay,
I'm trying to
Thank you.
insurance. But I can tell you that the super deluxe car wash on Roblin is assessed at a $10 rate too.
Oh,
That's, it
interesting.
actually has the capacity to move a lot more cars through it. There's a lot less waiting there. I love that car wash. Okay, sorry,
No, go ahead,
I'm good to go?
good to go.
Okay, so this is different location than the others, and you'll recall that I said earlier that I gave age groupings and rents that I applied to those various age groupings, and we finally got to a property where I actually applied that. So this one's built in the 2000s, and you recall that I said for the 2000s would be about $20 a square foot. For the 2010s would be 30, sometimes slightly above that, depending if they're a brand new or not. So, starting on page 4, you can see an overhead shot of the property. Again, you see the canopy. On the right-hand side, that's the standalone car wash, and directly behind that, just on the east end of the site, as we're looking at it, is the retail convenience store. So I took a look at rental rates for newer properties, retail properties, as I did before, in the area. You'll see there the ages of them. 2575 Main Street is almost the size of the property, and you'll see their rents in the 29, between 22 and $31 a square foot. Leela, similar, 5 years older, 6 years older. So it's interesting, but the difference with these rents is, as I was going through the briefs in sequence, I came across some other rents of car washes. And so I've included those here. 2544 Main Street, I believe is a city car wash. Is a city rent previously provided, 1425 from Phillips. Similarly, index number 26 at 66 Mandalay. The civic address of this particular standalone building is actually 76 Mandalay. This building, I can speak to it because I looked at the file. We did it on behalf of the owner for this cycle. That was a standalone building, car wash and tempo store with an arm's length lease in place on 5,589 square feet at a rate of $5.64 per square foot. Total annual rent $31,500 for that size of building. That's the tempo gas bar and the car wash in that building. So I took a look at and there's a bunch of typos in here, so I'm going to tell you verbally. The car wash, in this case, and based on this information, the car wash here, I've applied $10 a square foot. We are not accepting the $12 and change applied by the model. So we have applied $10. That's consistent with the other two properties. We've looked at it, and I stand to be corrected. I think it's consistent with the next one we're going to look at. 5% vacancy, all the same things that I've applied previously, including the 6.5% cap rate. All of the reasons on page 10 are the correct calculations. 2,605 square feet at $10 a square foot. I always need to double check those, you never know. And so, that's interesting. Looks like a calculation error, but we'll live with the 4% on the convenience store. Overall, 4.44% vacancy, 6.5 cap rate. We're looking for a reduction to $2,550,000. That didn't really terribly Similarly, when you look at the property taxes, we've included them on page 18. You've got $59,550 in property taxes, which works out to about $10.46 a square foot, just in terms of shortfall for property tax. So and it's just an observation, the model is a little wonky on shortfall for these types of properties.
Okay, thank you. And you're done?
I am, thank you. I should so say.
That's okay. Ms. Santucci, questions?
The only question I have is just in regards to the vacancy. So for the car wash, there's a 6%.
Yeah, it looks like I would have or should have applied, based on what I've been talking about, 5%. The numbers are gonna be really close. I can go through the calculations, but the number's gonna be very close.
That's my question, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings?
I am good, thank you.
This one must have been done very late at night.
And I am also good on this one. Thank you. Now we are going to skip down to 10:08
No,
Keyway.
2615 McPhillips.
Oh, 26:15.
Sorry,
okay.
no.
That's right, now I've got a little mark here.
McPhillips.
And then Keyway.
Thank you. Perfect.
26:15, yes.
And then it's gonna be 1008 Keyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So get ready now. Right.
Whenever you are ready.
Thank you. This is file number 19-4079, roll number 05001 571000. Address is 2615 McPhillips Street. This is another gas station property. We have 2-year bills, 2002 and 2013. We have a lease area of 3,809 square feet. I'll point out at the beginning, my recommendation is very small because it was due to an error in depreciation. So our system was corrected and that's what the value should have been mailed out at, the 1,888,000. So I just wanna point that out to start. So on page 2, I have aerial photos of the property here. This property is located on McPhillips Street, at the end of McPhillips Street, I guess, leaving the city. Exterior photo on page 2. Page 3, we have the request for income and expense, which has been received. Subject sale history, an older one, I'm guessing. Some of these older sales, I'm guessing, were from the original land sales for the properties. And for subject property leases, is fully owner occupied. On page 4, we have the vehicle car wash income stream. We have the 2,445 leasable area, square feet, with an $8.99 per square foot rate applied, 2% vacancy, 2% expenses, $4.50 for shortfall, and 5.4% for the overall capitalization rate. On page 5, we have the store kiosk pump income stream. We have 1,364 square feet applied to the store at $34.65 per square foot. We have 2% for vacancy loss, 2% for expenses, and $6 for shortfall, with an overall capitalization rate of 6.15%. For this one, we have an additional land value actually added on as well, and the additional building value. So the additional building value is what was changed for that little bit of a decrease. We turn to page 6, I have my comparables for the gas station, which we've gone over. Again, this one would be most similar with the ones that have the stores and the car washes. So on page 7, I just have the land sale comparables to justify that $115,000 that was added for additional land value. So they have applied in our system. I'll turn to page 2 to kind of show you what we've looked at. So the land to the north of the property is what we considered additional land. There was that green space, which we was noted to be for future development. It's not, from what I'm understanding, there was no future development in the process right now from what I looked in permits. So it's about 105 feet by 250 feet, and it was just marked as area for future development. We've applied a $4.38 rate to that 26,250 square feet of land. So my comparables here, I have 10 of them. They range from $10.11 all the way up to $29.95, depending on where the land is, the size of the land. I think that the $4.38 applied as a lower rate, which is appropriate for this property. On page 8 is the income value summary. So we have a combined net operating income for the $66,118 and a capitalization rate of 5.89%, and the estimated market value at the $1,888,000. So my recommendation today would be to reduce from the original mailed out 2020 assessed value, the $1,901,000 to $1,888,000. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Boardroom?
I do, and we're gonna circle around the additional land assessment that's been assigned to this. If you take a look at your page 2,
Yes.
now you indicated, I heard you correctly, that the department has assigned or has allocated 26,250 square feet as, does the department consider them surplus or excess?
It would be
There's a
excess
difference, right?
because it's developable,
Excess requires also that it be severable.
which I think that's why they put it to the north part of the parcel.
And so let's take a look at your, and so would you agree with me that those lands would not be severable and separately developable?
When I looked at the aerial shots of it, I thought the northern portion could be developed.
Okay, do you know what the setbacks are according to zoning?
No, I did not look into that.
And you'd agree with me that you're gonna be required to set back from both McPhillips and the adjoining parcel?
I would agree you'd have to, yes, set back from
And so would that reduce the amount of area that might potentially be available?
yes.
So 26,250 might be excessive?
That was what was previously determined, so
I know, but in your opinion, it might be a little on my side.
I'm not sure, I can't.
Okay, fair enough. So the other thing I just want to confirm with you is that the model has assigned a car wash rent of $8.99.
Yes, for this one.
And those are my questions, thank you. Just say them. Yeah, it's a little wonky.
Car comes out just.
Yeah.
Okay, my first question, shouldn't that rent be $10 a square foot on the car wash?
Yeah, it could be a bit higher, but that's where the
Well,
model,
it
I
would,
feel like with it, it's $1 difference,
I
it's
can
nominal,
live with that.
I think. So I usually try to see it as like $1 difference, I think that's okay.
And my second question is, on this, the land that Mr.
Yes.
Boardroom was referring to, wouldn't a money mart look good on that corner?
That's Tim Hortons, I don't know. I guess it depends how small the building you'd
Yeah,
like to put
exactly.
there.
I'm just wondering what those buildings are.
I think
on
those are
that
just
list.
those,
That's what I
those
was gonna
sheds
ask.
to purchase, like, you know, when people,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Oh,
those
yeah,
pre-built
yeah.
with
Oh,
a
just-
sign.
Yeah, okay.
And just to fill you, I hesitate to jump in.
I thought it was maybe a money
That
mart
could be
there.
part of your presentation.
Yeah.
Well, it's not part of our presentation, but I did take a look at it, and I did note those, and I did find on the income and expense questionnaires, they were there for one summer. I haven't seen it on the income and expense questionnaires previously or since, so I don't think they're there.
Yeah, these
anymore.
photos would have been from
Yeah.
2018 for our area.
One of the
so.
gas jockeys building.
I was just gonna say,
Just
they had a
wondering.
little
Still there.
Yeah.
I think, my parents always go to that once they go out of town.
Oh.
They're the best.
Did you have any more questions?
No, thank you,
Okay.
sorry.
So this is the land you're talking about? This
Yes, the
little-
top portion, yes.
So to have access to build something on there,
Mhm.
it would have to be built by the co-op because it couldn't be anything separate, like in terms of, anyway, it's, yeah, okay. Pumps.
Yes. So for this one.
You like those pumps, don't you?
Two. Next time
I
I
feel
have.
like there might be 5 here. I didn't take a great aerial shot of the, so if there's 5 and then 2 for that, so 10. And
No, but, sorry, in your other briefs, you've had pumps with a value. Is this mislabeled?
For which one?
Sorry, did I miss it on your brief?
We just had the additional building value always listed on, the income workup on page 5. It's just,
The 651,
yes,
so is that the pumps?
that would be yes.
Okay, just on your others, they were labeled as,
Was it-
it's labeled as pumps.
Oh.
So I-
And tanks and canopies.
Yeah, you were just checking if I was still awake, no. Okay, that's all my questions. Mr. Bergstrom?
It is interesting to me that under the legislation, tanks for the retailing of oil products are accessible. Tanks for other properties, it's up in the air, and I was recently involved in the decision, which is now in the Court of Appeal, on a 110,000 US water gallon tank in the Arden of Ross Circle, across the street from Winnipeg, on Eagle Drive also. So, it's interesting.
Ross.
The propane in that tank is 100% sourced from a gas field, it is not an oil product.
Curious.
And that's really straight on the topic. In any event, so, we disagree with the assessor, and just following up with your comments, if we take a look at our page 6, in order to access whatever lands might be there, you're going to need to use the access and egress, which is clearly set up for the gas station operation. These lands would at best be considered surplus, which, when you look at appraisal literature, and I didn't attach any here today, may or may not contribute value to the site as a whole. You know, when I'm looking at this, and it's in my mind a relatively narrow site, you need access and egress for the car washes. In my view, it doesn't warrant an adjustment for surplus lands. As we're looking at page 4, the gas station and car wash was actually built in 2002. Car wash was 1,045 square feet in size at that time, but they added another one in 2013. So, and you can see that in the picture on page 4, just to the right of the rightmost structure in there. That's the newest of the car washes. That's a little bigger in size, 1,400 square feet. So we have we have 2 different ages in the car washes, 2002 and 2013, and still $9 a square foot. So we took exactly the same approach here as we did on Main Street, exactly the same rental comparables. Again, we have 66 Mandalay, which is the Temple Gas Bar, And most of that building is a car wash. It's a drive-in wand wash. Some typos there again. So we'll take a look at our page 10. And so if we go through the mathematics under the total line, we, again, we've applied that blended vacancy rate. Capitalization rate 6.5%, that's consistent for the properties built in the 2000s. We are going to amend our adjustment because there wasn't a breakdown available. We will agree with the 651 for pumps, tanks, and canopies. I don't think that the additional land value is supported in this particular case, and so our revised request will be a reduction to $1,456,000.
Sorry, Brad, what was that again?
$1,456,000.
Thank you.
That's taking our capitalized value of $805,000 and adding 651 pumps, tanks, and canopies. I have a question. Why doesn't the income summary break out land and tanks separately?
I'm not sure why. I would have thought, because it broke it out separately in my brief, that would have online, but,
It does not,
okay,
yeah, so,
make note of that.
yeah. Just a question.
Anything else?
Thank you, no, that's it. Same thing with shortfall, but we've seen it before. And don't look at those numbers, look at the numbers on page 10. There's some typos in there. If I might suggest.
Questions, sorry.
No questions.
Mr. Hutchins.
Yeah, first of all, Brad, just one quick one, the picture of the site map on page 4, or the aerial photo.
Yeah.
So, you know that northern vacant land?
Yeah.
We call it surplus there. It looks like there's a large concrete pad being poured in front of that. See where those structures are?
I think that was there previously. I did this property last cycle. I think it was there previously.
Oh, okay. Like it looks maybe access to
Yeah.
the next place, or
You know-
parking for that vacant land, I don't know.
Well, and that's a good question, because when you look at the site map, and you see that pad,
Yeah.
it's actually partially on the adjoining lot, which is not owned by Red River.
Oh, yeah, there
So
you go.
I'm not sure why it's there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and last question. When I looked on the assessors, land to plan area, it's 20.79.
When you look at the overhead site on page 4, the overhead of the property on page 4, you can see it's kind of spread out, and it's kind of spread out in the middle of the site. If it had been constructed off to one side, then there might be, you know, I'd probably then agree that there are some lands there that might carry some additional value for the site. But the way the site is developed, kind of in the middle of the lot, it's just the way it's configured. It also allowed them to expand the car wash rates.
Okay, that's my only question,
Yeah.
thank you.
And I have no questions on this.
Oh gosh, okay. Thank you, yes.
which has the non-compliance on it.
Yeah. Well, there's a request for it.
Whenever you're ready.
So I'll start off with the file number, 19-4718, roll number 14096773700, address 1008 Quebec Street. So I'm asking that the request that the burden of proof be placed on the applicant for non-cooperation following section 53(3) E of the Municipal Assessment Act, and if a reduction in assessment is ordered, that it follow section 54(3.2) of the Municipal Assessment Act. So I'm asking for non-compliance today based on, if you go to my page 3. So the request for income and expense information was sent April 12th, 2018, and we did not receive the response until April 20th, 2018. We consider the income and expense response to be late. The official non-compliance date would be somewhere around like June 30th, 2018. And if you flip to my page 9 for the 2017 income and expense questionnaire, you can see at the top there's the due date of May 3rd, 2018.
Sorry to interrupt, I've lost your page, where are we?
Oh, page 9?
Thank you, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's, thank you.
Page 9, we just have the due date of May 3rd, 2018. You can see the stamp on page 10 just shows July 20th, 2018. And again, the due date. And then on our page 12, unfortunately the date that they filled out is not legible, but again, it's stamped July 20th, 2018. So I'm asking for it today to be granted based on just the income expense questionnaire being received late.
Thank you. Questions,
I
Mr.
do have
Boxer?
some questions. This property is occupied by Red River as a tenant, correct?
Yes.
And the income and expense, sorry, the request made under section 16(1) was sent to the owners of this property?
It was sent to where it was normally sent. I know the previous year they had responded, so there was no change in address. I just have the person who received it and filled it out late was the accountant, so I'm not
Do
sure.
you know where it was sent?
I don't have the exact address of where it was sent.
Okay, and you will be aware of extensions being granted into July? for
Yes.
this- Yeah.
If
and
they
so-
request it.
And so in this particular case, certainly the date that they responded, or the date that we think they responded, would fall within that extension.
Usually we only grant extensions to the first week of July, from my understanding, but
Fair enough. Now, in terms of the response, so you don't know where it was sent, and we don't know who sent it back?
I just know there was no mailing address changes when I looked it up in our tax system, and that's where the tax bill goes and everything.
Do you know when the request was received? Oh, so let me back up for a second. Do you know, so if there was not a response received on this property, there would have been a registered letter sent out, certified mail sent
Yeah.
out, right?
In June.
Do you know if that was done here?
No, because they received it,
You say
And
they
we-
received it in July.
no, they received it, they just didn't submit it back to us till July, so I'm not sure.
So, let me ask you again. So you're suggesting that they did not respond until July,
Mhm.
correct? But where the department has not received a response in June,
Mhm.
they send out certified mail requests, right?
Yes.
And so do you know if one was sent out in this case?
I don't know if a certified was sent out, I only printed the one that we received.
So you have no record You couldn't find a record of a certified mail being sent out?
I only took the income and expense that was on file, I didn't,
And so from your information that you're providing to us today, we don't know who it was sent to, or where it was sent, or when it was received, correct?
well, it was sent to the property owners, and then they have the names listed.
So it was sent to the property owner and not Red River, correct?
From my understanding, it was sent to where the property owner has requested their mail to go, they've had no issue with mail.
But we still don't know when it was received by them, correct?
I am unsure of when they received it, all I know is they sent back the one that was sent out in April that had the due date of May.
And I apologize if this seems like repeating the question, but previous testimony before this board and the other board indicates that where a response is not received to the initial mailer, that a certified mail is sent out in early June, right?
Yes, the June would be the certified.
And we have no record of that here, or that you could find.
No, I didn't include the certified because the one that they sent back was the May copy and they just sent it back late, that's all.
I believe those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchins.
No, I'm good, thank you.
So, Ms. Santucci, on page 3 of your brief, you've got 2016 and the 2017. So the 2016 was sent in on time?
Yep.
But you don't have previous years?
No, we just have those ones. And I'm not sure why it doesn't, I'm not sure if it generates on every brief like that. I think it only shows the past two. And from what I could tell, they were normally compliant, this was just, they didn't submit it on time this year.
But you do normally send out the registered mail?
If we don't
Notice.
receive a response, yes.
Right, but you don't have a copy of it?
No, we
Sorry,
did receive a
sister.
response, just late, that's all.
And you don't have the address that it was sent to?
I confirmed in our tax system that there was no mailing address changes or anything, and that it was sent to the specific location, all the,
So it wasn't sent to Keewatin? There's another address?
I can't speak to the exact one that was in the system, but I just know that it was the address on file that they requested their mail to be sent to.
Okay. Did you have a question? Okay, I'll just,
But also, it's good.
so do you have? Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking for. You start sending out the mailers when to people?
In April, the first ones will be sent out, and those are due in May. And then if they don't receive a response, we send out other ones that are due in June 30th.
Okay, so technically they have till June 30th?
Yes, and then if they, again, if they need a bit longer, they can request people send a letter and just requesting an extension, and usually we try to have them done by the first week of July.
Right. And the city compiles all this information for your model?
Yes.
Okay,
So we review them, the staff does, once they're in June.
okay. And how many do you get?
Mailers, well, off the top, I'm not unsure how many we receive.
Okay, hundreds?
Well, yeah,
Thousands?
I've
In the
reviewed,
thousands?
I would think so, I feel like I've reviewed a lot of them, so,
Okay. So that takes you quite a long time to review them?
yes.
Okay. And is there a specific date that modelers need the information by?
There is a set date, I'm not sure what the date would have been in 2018, but I would think it would be in the summertime, I'm guessing in August or September.
Because I'm just wondering, so you've got all the assessors looking at all this information,
Mhm.
thousands of them, and they have to all be reviewed, and then they go to the modelers, and then they, how many modelers are there, do you know?
Maybe 6?
I've always wondered that. Okay, and then the modelers start going through all these thousands and
Yes.
start
They'll review.
inputting the information?
I would think,
Okay,
yeah.
so it's a long process?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Question?
Actually, you asked it, thank you.
Kid? Mr. Bergstrom?
I
Starting to lose my,
do have a submission with respect to the compliance penalty. I'm wondering if we might circumvent it, well, actually, I'll go through it really briefly. So it's in two parts. The assessor has already received her copies of them, so.
okay.
Do you have one?
Yeah,
Yes, it
she's
is.
already got hers. So, this is a submission that has been before this board numerous occasions. I haven't, be stretching my memory to, I've had less than a handful or so of these. So I'm going to very briefly just touch on some of the points here. Now, I'm going to, and I will refer to the case as well. If we turn to page 10, and the paragraph number 23 just refers to the Lecherson case, which went to the went from the municipal board where it was granted. There were actually 3 concurrent cases heard under the Lecherson sort of lead of it. And the court in that case said, certainly in respect of the rename management component, set aside the decision of the municipal board imposing it. But the court commented in paragraph 23 that the concern of the assessor is not to punish the owner who fails to respond to a section 61 request for information, but rather not to be blindsided in a subsequent approach of the Board of Revision or the municipal board with information which was initially withheld or inadequately provided. Our submission here is that the information was provided. Now we can debate whether it was received late in view of the extensions that have been granted on other properties for the 2007 questionnaires. The other points I just wanted to briefly touch on, if we get right into the brief itself, our pages are numbered at the bottom. And we can turn to page 38, numbered at the bottom in the center. This is the court speaking in the Lecherson decision. And so I've highlighted at the bottom of page 38, there is general agreement, and this was a case involving the city, obviously, and these 3 individual parties who were seeking relief. There is general agreement that requests for information concerning income expenses are sent out so that the information will be available to the assessor as the general assessment roll is being prepared. In that case, it was by March 31st of 2001. So that very much ties in with the questions from the chair regarding whether or not they had the information in time to do the modeling with it, to use the information in the general assessment. It goes on to say there may be occasions when the assessor will remind a property owner that the information is incomplete or overdue, but there is no established pattern. As long as the assessor receives the information before completing the assessment roll at the end of July, The assessor is usually content. Now, the other part that I just want to draw your attention to is on page 44. And it's not been highlighted in this submission, but it's in paragraph 40. And if you go to more or less the middle, it goes to say, but if the assessor elects to send the request to someone other than the owner or user or occupier, in this case, it's pretty clear that the assessor has not sent it to Red River Co-op. You recall from all the other properties today, Red River Co-op complies with requests for information. Then unless the agent was held out to have the authority to accept such a document, I'm going to highlight this section for you. The assessor bears the burden of establishing that the request has been brought to the attention of the owner. Well, in this case, we don't know where it was sent. We don't know when it was sent. We don't know where it was received. I don't know these people at all. I have no contact with them. Were they in town or the country? I have no idea. There is an additional, certainly more recent than Lecherson decision out of the municipal board, which provides us with some useful guidance. Now, the assessor again already has a copy of this. And this is order number A18275. So the decision dates back to August of 2018. This is a fairly recent decision. And while I'm not going to address the exact facts of this case, I do want to bring your attention firstly to page 7. I've highlighted a few sections of this. The municipal board in its commentary has provided some guidance for us, and the department as well, actually. In this particular case, Mr. Newman acted as counsel for the owner of this property, and he submitted that the mere act of putting a request for information in the mail does not prove receipt by the owner. Now, in this particular case, the municipal board actually agreed, and if we turn to page 8, there, the municipal board actually refers to the Lecherson decision, which I have just referred you to, and I've highlighted parts of 4 of the points here. Proof of service of a request for information does not have to be evidenced by an acknowledgement of a receipt card. There are other ways to do it. That's not been done here. The onus is on the assessor to establish the request for information was made and it found its way to the property owner. Now, obviously, they received it at some point, but we can't know when, and we do know that they ultimately returned it. Further on down the page, if there is uncertainty whether a request was sent to the right party or the correct address, or that it was duly received by the owner, the assessor may decide not to raise the possible failure to comply. That was set out in Lecherson as well. Right below that, the assessor is bound to exercise an administrative discretion depending on the circumstances of individual cases. So coming in here, and I appreciate that the assessor is being directed in this matter, but it is clear from Lecherson and the municipal board as recently as 2018 has directed that the department start to exercise some administrative discretion in these requests. And finally, on the very last page of the order, page 10, the board actually went on to repeat that in a slightly different form. They said, in closing, the board would like to highlight a comment in Lecherson about the assessor's responsibility to exercise an administrative discretion depending on the circumstances of individual cases. If there is uncertainty whether a request was sent to the right party or to the correct address, or that it was duly received by the owner, the assessor may wish to decide not to raise a possible failure to comply. My suggestion is that that's exactly what should apply in this case. In any event, the evidence before you, or you don't have any evidence before you with respect to when it was sent, where it was sent, when it was received. And so in these circumstances, it's our respectful submission that the request should be denied. And I'm open to questions.
Thank you. I have no questions.
I think there's was no denial that it was sent in, we're just talking a time, whether it's later.
Well, and so the question then becomes, when did they receive it? Was it lost in the mail for a while? I don't know.
Yeah,
But it's clear that they did in fact respond, and it's clear from the testimony of the assessor that it was in fact
No.
used in modeling, so.
no other questions, thank you. Comments?
And I have no questions, thank you.
Just as an additional comment on my part, where there is a signature on a certified mail receipt and signed for by somebody that it was duly received, you're not gonna find me here arguing it. When we know that it was received by an owner, I don't argue the issue. That's happened many times this cycle, so, and past cycles.
Okay, thank you.
Shall we step out?
Or would you like to step up? No?
I'm good right here.
Okay.
Thank you. Although, yes,
No, that's fine. You could, if you would, please, thank you.
Katie, I guess you'll have to.
Yeah.
Although.
Like, do I have to move?
Sorry, now that we've
Okay.
I'd like to call this hearing back to order, and we are going to deny the non-co-op.
And then for proceeding,
Yeah, you've already read into it, and so if I might just hop in here.
Yeah, you've read the rule, yeah?
Yeah, I didn't have the information that I required to properly prepare a brief on this matter, and so we are seeking a confirmation. Although, in looking at the assessor's information now, bear with me for 1 second. And so, because we didn't have the information, that's why we were seeking it. I now have a chance to look at this, and I'll seek client instruction about further review. Thank you.
Please request information. Okay.
Down to 4.
Okay, I think we're going to 160 Watson Street now.
Okay.
And whenever you're ready.
thank you. This is file number 19-2346, roll number 05-005-396600, address is 160 Watson Street. So we have a vehicle service related building here. We have the actual year built is 2004, and we have the leasable area is 15,016 square feet. If we turn to page 2, aerial photo of the property. So it is to the west of McPhillips, on Watson Street. We have some exteriors here, just the building. I don't have any interior photos, and I have not been in this building. On page 3, we just have the request for income and expense that's been received. The subject sale history, there was a post-reference sale, so I removed that. Other than that, the previous sale was from 2001. We have the subject property leases, just as that it's fully owner occupied. On page 4, I have the income workup for the vehicle service garage. We have a leasable area of 15,016 square feet, and we have applied a rental rate of $13.93 per square foot. Vacancy loss at 4% for this property, 2% expenses, $4.50 for shortfall, and a 6.4% capitalization rate. So we come up with the estimated market value of $3,033,000. On page 5 is my rent comparables. We have a mixture here of vehicle service related comparables. They range from, I have comparables 1 to 38. They range from $7.63 to $20.79. As brought up before, the one that's located on Main Street, comparable number 24, I will not put weight on that one just because we've determined that the leasable area, the square footage there is potentially wrong. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the mailer to review it.
We'll go over it in a minute.
Yeah. Other than that, there's a wide range of rents applied here. They could be based on if it's more of a small scale vehicle service related, year built. So our average here is $13.78 and the median is $12.63. On page 6 is just the summary for the income. Page 7 is the model drive capitalization rates. 8 is the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts, and on page 9 is the income and expense questionnaire that was submitted. So it just states it's fully owner occupied. And page 11 is just the tenant, which would be owner occupied, and the addenda on page 13 we've already gone over. So my recommendation today would be to maintain the 2020 assessed value of the $3,033,000. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Borgstrom?
I could ask a large number of questions, but I think in this case I will simply present a rebuttal evidence. The city has provided 38 rental comparables, and I'm going to tell you before I go through them that 7 are not arm's length leases. In fact, one of the properties is owned by today, and I will tell you that the other ones you just referred to, the city has calculated or has based their rental rate in the land area, and that arises from a very preliminary investigation. So, if I might, I'll just proceed with our rebuttal. Now,
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Thanks. I'm just looking, so it's Boyd Auto Body, and yet on page 11, Jim Goche Cadillac is the leasee or the
Yes. I'm
previous owner.
the
previous?
There was a post-reference sale.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And frankly.
as per the reference statement.
Okay,
And I need to figure out
okay.
whether there was an acquisition of Goche's collision business by them, or whether, and so it's, the details are unclear, and I'm leaving that for the next item.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
So we have a not small rebuttal package for you. It's only 101 pages. I'm not going through every page. I will go through the highlights. We've already provided the assessor with her copy. I have my copy, and I have clipped all of them because I wasn't sure that the giant staple would actually hold. So going forward, I think we'll look aside these.
So this is regarding
So,
My paper.
yeah. No, the assessor already has hers.
I already have mine, yes.
Well, I'll,
Okay.
this are heavy.
You know, I'd like to use a line, but the weight of
Also, I
the
like to get my
evidence, but I won't. So I'm going to take you through this fairly quickly. So I'm going to start at, and they're numbered in large, bold numbers in the bottom right-hand corners. I'm going to start off at page 4, it's the large bolded number. And I'm going to tell you about these properties, and then I'm going to take you to the evidence in support of what it is that I'm telling you. So now I've highlighted the ones that I want to bring to your attention. And again, this is just a cursory preliminary investigation. We have not investigated all of these rents, but right off the hop, there are 8 or more than 20% of the assessor's comparables that don't meet the test of either being arm's length or being accurate. Comparable number one is 960 Pembina Highway. That is the Fountain Tire just south of the Jubilee Underpass. I can tell you that there is a relationship, a corporate relationship, there is an intermingling between Goodyear, between Fountain Tire, and between Treadmark Properties. And I'm going to talk about Treadmark in a moment. But I can tell you that the ownership of 960 Pembina Highway is Goodyear. So this is not an arm's length lease. 1429 Henderson Highway is another Fountain Tire. So that number 12, number 17, and number 31 are all Fountain Tire locations. Those three properties are all owned by Treadmark, which I am telling you, and I will show you in a moment, is intermingled ownership with Fountain Tire and Goodyear. I'm going to tell you that comparable number 13 on Lorette is JJJ Automotive / JMax / Joel Semchuk. It's a client. And I will show you in a moment previous submissions to this board that we have indicated that it's a non-arm's length lease. The assessor has acknowledged that, and for some reason it keeps showing up as a rent. I'm also going to tell you that the rental rates for 963 and 971 Dugald. 963 Dugald we are dealing with today. Both of those are J Transport, but that's a related corporation to the owner, or the holdco, if you will, which is a numbered Canada company. So that's not an arm's length lease. That's been before this board at least the last two cycles. The assessment department has been made aware of it, not including this cycle, is 2016, 2018. So the department certainly should be well aware of it, and I don't know why it's still in their records. And finally, 1284 Main assessors already talked about. That's the MPI Service Center, which I will show you in a moment that the city actually used 44,000 square feet as the leasable area. Comes up with a very different calculation for the lease rate. Again, a built-to-suit building. So that's a lot of information, and I'm going to take you now to page 6. You'll see there at the top, this is just from the Treadmark Properties website, and it goes into a little bit of description of the relationship between Fountain Tire, Goodyear Canada, and Treadmark. So that briefly describes some of the intermingling. It talks about on page 7 the properties that Treadmark has in Manitoba, and in particular the 3 properties in Winnipeg that I have now identified for you on the assessor's list. On page 9, this is from the 2000, it's interesting what you can research, from the 2014 annual report from the Alberta Treasury Branch. You'll see there that I've highlighted Brian, and I don't want to pronounce the last name, he's the chair of the Alberta Treasury Branch. His principal occupation is the chair of Fountain Tire Ltd., but he's also a director of Treadmark Properties. There is an intermingling of the corporate relationships. So there's some commonality. These are not arm's length open market leases. You find similarly on page 11, this is the following year in 2015, same individual. Now he's shown as the former chair and CEO of Fountain Tire. And again, his current affiliation is with Treadmark Properties, or he remains affiliated with them. So all of the Fountain Tire leases, I put it to you, or it's our submission, are not arm's length open market leases and should be disregarded. Carrying on, comparable number 13 is, so I'm going to get you, Lorette, I'm going to get you to turn to page 32. Now, I can take you through the property tax bills and so forth, showing the ownership of the fountain tires for the real estate, but I think it speaks for itself. It's all contained within here. So page 32, again, I'm familiar with this property, I've inspected it, it's a client. If we turn, I'm gonna turn you to page 34. So here you will see some communication from them to me, dating back to 2015. By the way, GMAX Auto Service is responsible for that. And then she goes on to say, I believe one of her related companies, JJJ Automotive Ltd. So they're related companies. When you take a look at page 35 and 36, you'll see there the income and expense questionnaire that was submitted to the city for the year ending October 31st of 2016. And on page 36, you'll see there that the name filled in there is Joel Sumchuk. He's the owner. And you'll see there his email is JMax. Again, related corporations per the email. You'll see the tenant there, JJJ Mechanical Services. They're one and the same. Now, on page 39, we show you our previous submission dating back to the, I believe that's a 2019 Board of Revision appeal. On page 41, we indicate that the subject property was owner occupied. Certainly, this board and the city both have that information. On page 42, we show you our submission from the 2016 appeal. And exactly the same on page 44. Subject properties were occupied by non-arm's length leases. So, city certainly should be aware of that from past evidence before them. Next on the hit list, 963 and 971 Dougal. 22. Just trying to reference you to the right page. I'm going to start at page 58. Again, this is a property occupied by J Transport. Again, not on arm's length lease. And if you turn over to page 59, you'll see there an email from the owner, Greg Arndt, to me dating back to January of 2016 in respect of that appeal. You'll see my question there below, whether or not there is a relationship as between J Transport and the numbered Canada company or their principals. And he responded, yes, same shareholders. It's a hold co lease co arrangement, not an arm's length open market lease. So that applies to 963 Dougal, that also applies to 971 Dougal. Exactly the same information. And if we go to page 62, this is from our 2016 appeal on 963 Dougal. Again, we've highlighted the property was owner occupied. Okay. And similarly, the 2018 appeal for 963 Dougal, again at page 65, where we indicate that the subject was owner occupied. So I can tell you that I did the appeal for 2018 on this property. At least it's not something you can use. So we carry on to the next property at 971 Dougal, and I go through the same information. In hearings before this board previously, and it's all in here, we've indicated that the property owner occupied shouldn't be used. We already talked about 1284 Lorette, and so with, 1284 Main, which is the service center. That is 24. There we go. So if we take a look, just very quickly, I'm not going to belabor the point, starting at page 77. I've included at page 78 the city's brief to this board for the 2020 Realty Assessment Appeal. We do work for MPI. You'll see there on, it's our page 78, you'll see there that the leasable area used by the city is 44,000 square feet. What they show on page 79 I've included excerpts of our submission. This was done, I believe, by Mr. Petker from our office. We show the leasable area as the main floor plus the basement. And on page 82, this is the income summary from the city. Again, a built-to-suit building, but the leasable area used by the city in calculating the assessment, 44,000 square feet. I'm not sure where the number 12,000 and change came up from. So with that, I am happy to answer questions about this.
Thank you.
Thank you. I tried to go quickly.
I have no questions on the material for the most part, I've just revised some of my stuff.
Okay.
I'll be ready in 1 second. If you want to go ahead, Carrie.
I did not have any questions.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay. No, you're good. I'm done.
Back at you.
Okay,
Very clear.
all right. So, let's start with Mr. Boardroom. I'm looking at your comps on page, no, we're doing rebuttal, aren't we? Okay, sorry,
Yes.
sorry. Okay, I'm looking at page 4 of your,
Mhm.
of the ones you removed. So what I did was I removed I think you took out 8.
Yeah.
And I averaged out less those 8, and I still come to 12.90 a square.
So having said that, and I led into it at the onset, and I told you that this rebuttal was based on a very limited preliminary review of the assessor's comparables.
Okay.
We have not gone into further investigation,
Okay.
which will include seeking records, certainly the tax bills, see where they're going, and we've also done some corporate searches, and we need to do quite a number more. But I think that it's pretty clear, just from this information here, that statistically, when you've got more than 20% of the rental comparables right off the hop being disqualified, certainly 7 of them are not arm's length open market leases. It leads me to question whether we can rely or place any weight on the remaining ones.
Okay, so let's look at the 4 that are closest to the subject property.
Well, this is the assessor's evidence.
Yeah, I know, but 2140 McPhillips, there's 4 of them, and they average out at $11.63 a square
And
foot.
I don't know whether we can rely on those.
But you also don't know we can't. Fair enough? Okay, that's just my call. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd like to proceed to your brief.
Okay.
So we're going to look at the rental comparables that we've already seen today. Again, this property was built in 2004. I believe that it was built by Negotiate Group for their collision and automotive repair practice offsite from the dealerships. So we're looking at page 7. The same 8 rental comparables, 3 of them are auto body shops, 2 of them are Boyd Auto Bodies. They come up with a rent significantly lower than the $13.93 suggested by the assessor. I've looked at the age of the property, and I think something closer to 10 would be appropriate, particularly when you look at the building. It's not, certainly when you look at some of the Boyd locations in there, high traffic, high visibility areas, and a lot of that information is contained within our rebuttal evidence about the high traffic, high visibility locations for the rental comparables of the assessor. You're going to need a downward adjustment for the location here, with some consideration of the age. $10 seemed like a great rate to me. We do not disagree with vacancy or shortfall. Again, we have the discrepancy on the non-recovered expenses, and we're applying a 6.75 cap rate. It's more akin to an industrial property, which is why we have provided our industrial cap rate study, and for newer properties, that's going to be in the range. So based on all of that, we're looking for a reduction to $1,946,000.
Thank you.
Thank allowing 7% as non-recoverables.
Yeah.
Yes.
Questions?
Would you agree that most of your comparables would be more industrial properties?
No, they're all VSGs or auto body shops. They're not industrial properties at all. So I've gone through those previously, but
Yeah.
let me just do it again real quick. Okay, so 329 Oak Point Highway is the standalone vehicle repair shop adjacent to 329 Oak Point, right? Standalone building. 1870 King Edward Street, we're gonna talk about in a moment here. 45 Wilson is a standalone building. It is I believe it's a trailer repair. Maury is 700 Maury, that's an auto body shop. 120 King Edward is Boyd Auto Body. It's older, but it's a high traffic, high visibility location. 344 Oak Point is Denway Tire. They were on that lease, that was actually leased from Paul's Hauling, who owned the property previously. They subsequently purchased it, but that was the lease in place for there. 84 Scurfield, again, is Boyd Auto Body. It's actually of a size awfully close to the subject size. It's in the Scurfield area near White Ridge. And then 72 Scurfield is a vehicle service related, it's ESL Technologies. And so they are all vehicle service related or auto body shops.
Thank you. No further questions?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, just reading page 7 if you're brief. You've got, based on the above and considering the site-specific attributes of the subject property
Yep.
on April 1st, 28, and blah, 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 the market rent of not more than $10 per square foot.
Yep.
So if you're basing that on the site-specific attributes of the subject and looking at your least comparable information,
Mhm.
so the average was $745?
Yeah, the subject is built 2004, so it's
Right.
newer.
So that's what I mean.
That's a
So,
consideration.
of course,
And
so,
it's less high visibility locations, another consideration, but
of course,
certainly
But-
age is
yeah.
significant here.
Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
it just sounds like an arbitrary number to me, that's why I'm asking.
It is,
10.
numbers where,
Okay.
and it's the same thing with the modeling. When I'm considering an appropriate rent to apply to an owner-occupied property, it's always going to rely on judgment and experience.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, I placed much greater weight on the age of the property, which is why I've adjusted it upwards by about 25%.
Did you have a chance to visit the
I
property?
have not.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
Sorry, do auto bodies tend to sort of have harder use than other things like flex warehouses or?
I would agree with that,
Yeah.
that the use of the property can impact on the life expectancy of the property. They also have specialized equipment in there, like booths where they bake the paint, sandblasting booths, that sort of thing, which are self-contained, which helps mitigate some of that.
Okay. So, again, your cap rate of 6.75, that's well
The-
within your parameters of on your study.
For the industrial properties, and in my view, these kinds of properties are more akin to industrial than anything else.
So you mentioned that this is not, the location being on Watson. Is that necessarily important for auto body?
It's, it depends.
Visibility?
It depends, and so you'll, as you go through this list, Boyd Auto Body has a location in 15 Marion, which is right at the corner of Marion and Main Street, high visibility.
And there are other two on your lease that you're high.
are fairly high visibility, so it's a consideration, especially they want, particularly their brand, they want their brand to be in front of people's minds. Now, people aren't gonna come to this location necessarily because it's a board, they're gonna remember what they drove by. And I do have a question about the sale of the property in Northwest Reference, because it looks to me, that's a very large shop. They have another similarly large one on Scurfield, that they lease, and it was like, excuse me, relationship, I've dealt with that property recently, this cycle. That's located in more of an industrial area. This, when you look around it, is more of a residential area, which was a little weird to me, but it doesn't have the high, and it's setback, so it doesn't have high visibility. It's got a bunch of landscaping around it, which helps, I think, mitigate its presence, grandfather's presence in the neighborhood, so.
That's what I was gonna ask, that's yeah. Question?
Yeah, I guess my question is, Brad, this location services all those car dealerships north of Inkster?
I don't know that.
Yeah, and then Honda, Nissan, all those dealerships north of there, none of them have auto body shops, so they're coming into this location or being
Not necessarily, there are other options in the area.
Okay.
CarStar comes to,
Right.
on Saskatchewan Avenue comes to mind. There's another one.
No, but right off McPhillips, right?
Right,
Yeah.
and so, I don't know that of a fact.
Okay. Okay.
So
Fair enough.
depending on what happens here,
Yeah.
there's gonna be some additional questions for the owner.
Okay, thank you.
But again, your question relates to the business and not the structure, the real estate.
Fair enough. Okay.
I'd actually like to take a second about my parking, just
You think we're gonna go faster? Oops.
Do that again.
I'd like to call this hearing back to order, and we are going to proceed to 440 Oak Point Highway. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. This is file number 19-3170, roll number 14096621100. Address is 440 Oak Point Highway. We have a vehicle service related property here. The actual built was 1981. We have a leasable area of 22,979 square feet. On page 2, aerial photos of the property located on Oak Point Highway. I don't have any interior photos, and I've never been in this property. On page 3, we have the request for information that was received. Notes for subject sale history, older sale from 2002, I didn't look into. We dated subject property leases, net lease of $12.13 on an 8-year lease is what I calculated from the mailer. On page 4, the vehicle service related income stream. So we've applied a net rent of $9.24 per square foot, vacancy loss of 4%, expenses of 2, capitalization rate of 6.55% for an estimated market value of $2,987,000. So for my rent comparables, we've gone through some of these that we've, there's been questions of whether or not they're owner occupied. I did revise the average to about $13.54 when I calculated it quickly. And I will be looking through these further. I can just speak to the average of the ones, the 30. And then on page 6, which is the income value summary. Page 7 is the capitalization rates, model drive. I'll switch to page 9 for the income and expense questionnaire. So it doesn't say if it's owner occupied, doesn't say if it's gross or net, but what I did calculate, I put on the previous page. They have stated on this page though, no owner occupied, no step-up lease, net lease, and I calculated that, what did I say there? $12.13 per square foot. The lease start is from 2009 and goes to 2017. And on page 13 is just my addenda I've gone over. My recommendation today would be to maintain the 2020 assessed value of the $2,987,000. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Thank you. Questions?
Just a couple of really quick ones. Did you have the opportunity to review previous submissions on this property?
I did not, unfortunately, in time, I just
Fair
looked at the current.
And so just really quickly, if we take a look at your page 2 and the middle picture,
Okay.
the subject property is sitting, it's an irregularly shaped site, right?
Yes.
They sell trucks here, right?
It's, yeah, parts and services, trucks.
Yeah. And so in terms of the requirements of a land area for this kind of occupancy, you require a much larger space, right?
I guess it would depend on how many trucks they potentially are selling and how much space they need.
And so you won't, if you haven't reviewed these previous submissions, you won't be aware that the adjacent lot under the same ownership forms part of the single unit.
Okay. And the lot to the south of it, or
Yeah.
south?
You didn't look at our brief either? Oh, pardon me?
Oh,
I'm just checking. Those are my questions, thank you.
Thank you.
So just to piggyback on that, so the, well, you guys should be asking you, Brett. So the adjacent lot is on a separate roll number, but it's used for the business.
Yeah, and I'll go through that in my information.
Thanks.
So,
That's all, thank you.
Thank you. So you had stated you didn't have a chance to visit this?
I have never been
property?
here for business.
Do you
that's
know-
not happening.
Do you know the last time it was inspected?
I couldn't see in the notes when the last time it was inspected, so
Okay,
I'm guessing
I just-
not recent.
Yeah, okay, I'm just wondering, because it's almost 40 years old.
Sorry.
Okay,
I would guess if the tenants haven't changed, sometimes we don't go out for business assessment type
okay. And your cap rate?
just a model derived at the 6.55%.
Right, so it's not anywhere on page 7 of your,
No, unfortunately, we don't have anything for car related. Just speak to a range of falling within.
so just a offhand question, but, so, all these gas stations and, vehicle service garages, et cetera, that you don't have anything on your, like you don't have, it's not on your cap rate study?
I'm not sure why we don't include it. It's my first year doing it. I'm not.
Okay, sorry, so I'm just wondering, do the modelers somehow take the information from the mailers and they get a model cap rate from
I
this?
know they do review
And
sales
does-
and
Sorry.
income expense questionnaires. I'm just not sure if there's a reason they don't put them on here specifically. I'm not really sure. It would be helpful if we had a separate section for it, but unfortunately,
Okay, just wondering
yeah.
how that takes place. That's all my questions. Any other questions?
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. You mentioned there was a lease in place at $12.13?
That's based on the mailer not stating it was owner, like,
Oh, okay,
that's,
okay.
so it's not owner occupied, that's what I calculated. I don't know if there's any
Okay.
information to contradict that, so I'm
Okay.
just gonna speak with what
Yeah.
I calculated. That was kind of where I was at, with that was $12.13.
Okay, if it's not owner occupied, then
Yes.
Mr. Borgstrom will.
Yeah, I'm sure he
clarify
can
that.
provide some insight.
Okay, that's my only question, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Okay. So I'll address that question first, and I can tell you, we can start at page 8. The ownership of this property, and that is Joe Bouchard Investments, Inc., is the 1/3 owner of the occupant of this property. So there is the relationship. This is not an arm's length, open market lease. That was information contained within our previous submission to this board. I can tell you that because I did it last cycle. So we've disregarded whatever information there is, and so we have included on our page 8, again, a number of rental comparables that we've already seen today. For this one, because of what it is, we've added back in the non-auto. Again, the non-auto has a very large land building ratio associated with it, which is typically what you would expect. So based on those rental comparables, given the age of the property, built in 1991, in effective year built 1984, 850 a square foot is the rate that we applied. And again, no disagreement with respect to vacancy shortfall. We have applied 7% non-recoverable, and the capitalization rate we disagree with. We're applying 7.25% from the information we've submitted. Now, the other kicker here is, and I already asked the assessor about the adjacent property. If you look at page 16 and 17, you can see that clearly in the overhead pictures of our information as well. That is the adjacent parcel used in conjunction with the property. When you look at this area on Oak Point Highway, many of the properties have much larger land building ratios, and that's just because of the area, trucking related. Certainly, when you look at the property adjacent to Ride Time, I believe that's a Volvo dealership. It has a very large land area compared to the building, so they need that kind of occupancy requires that. So, as is typical in these circumstances, I actually had that earlier on today. This property 131 Provencher, where the assessor actually agreed that 2 parking lots should be deducted from the assessed value, whatever that is deductible. So we've gone through that exercise here as well in the calculations on page 10. 850 per square foot rent, 4% vacancy. We run through the mathematics. The indicated capitalized value is $2,348,000, but from that we deduct the assessed value of the adjacent lot at $663, so we come up with an indicated assessment for the subject property of $1,685,000. And I am open for questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
I'm just getting this. So the owner provided to you that it was the 1/3.
Yeah, this has been a client of mine for a number of years, and I did the appeal on it. I shouldn't say last cycle. I believe it was last cycle. If it wasn't last cycle, certainly 2016, and exactly the same information was provided. So if you go back into our old briefs, I'm going to say that.
That's all my questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Brad, just regarding the adjustment minus $663,000, is that the current assessment or is that your estimate of value?
It's the current assessment, and we show that on pages 16 and 17.
Okay.
You'll see there that these were printed off January 5th of 2020, so those are the current assessments.
Do you know if that land is under appeal?
I do not believe it is under appeal.
Okay.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah,
If-
so having said that,
Yeah.
if the deduction is made in the order, and I gave that undertaking this morning, so these lands will have been heard already because we're not dealing with lands anymore. So I don't believe it's under appeal. I believe that that's the original assessed value. If it has been under appeal and it has been appealed further to the municipal board, I gave the undertaking earlier that we will discontinue that appeal, that further appeal. I'm comfortable that this is the assessment in place.
Okay. So you think that that lot is worth $663,000?
Well, I don't think that that's what it's worth. I think that that's what the city has placed on it.
But, yeah.
And so
But
our.
you said you thought that assessment was correct, so.
No, so that's, let me clarify what I meant by that.
Okay.
The amount shown at $663 is the assessed value that is presently assigned to it. I make no judgment, and I'm offering no opinion as to whether that per square foot rate of land is correct.
Yeah.
It's a different,
But that's what you're asking us to reduce it by,
yes.
you know.
Would I be able to ask?
Yes, go
Anyway.
ahead.
Was the land required by zoning? Because typically we don't remove land from properties, at least in my experience,
Well, and
unless
so,
it's
so
required by zoning.
talk to Jonathan Spatcher, because we did that this morning at 131 Provencher. He made,
That's understandable, that's an office building and it's required parking, but this one, there's no required. That's,
Well-
I dealt with those land ones on
Yeah.
Provencher, that's the reason.
it's not unusual for us to do this. We've certainly done it in past cycles, not just for this property, but for others as well.
So I guess my question was, if it was reduced to 400,000, then that would change the calculation completely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that was printed out, as I said, January 5th. I'm happy to have the secretary check the assessed value, but I'm pretty comfortable. I'm happy to look it up right now, but I'm comfortable that that is the assessed value.
Okay, thank you.
If it is different, then absolutely our calculations would change.
Okay.
Sorry, and I think I missed something here. So the appellant is using this lot as parking?
Well,
Or to, like, sorry, yeah, the trucks.
yeah, but those are new vehicles,
Mm.
so parking is a bit of a misnomer.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, okay. Thank you. I think I'm now officially tired.
Yeah.
I can depress you and tell you that we only have 20% left. That's better to think of it as 2.
And we are going to move on to 1870 King Edward. Are you ready?
This is file number 19-3261, roll number 07092-050200. Address is 1870 King Edward Street. This is vehicle service related property. We have 2-year builds as 1977 and 1987. And we have a leasable area of 17,909 square feet. On page 2 is an aerial shot of the property. As you can see, it's on the bend kind of, going north on King Edward. Just the exterior photo. I've never been in this property and I don't have any interior photos. Request for information. Shows here the received response. Subject sale history, there's none. And in regard to subject property leases, I've calculated $8.15 lease at 5 years. On page 4, I have the income stream workup. We have a rent of $9.04 applied, and vacancy loss of 4%, expenses at 2%, and overall capitalization rate is 6.55% for an estimated market value of $2,276,000. On page 5, my revised average for the rent comparables is $13.54. Page 6 is the income value summary. If we go to page 9, 2017 income and expense questionnaire. Doesn't say whether it's owner occupied partially, income gross or net. And on page 11, we have the tenant, leased area, monthly rent, stating it's a net rent. And on page 14 is my 2020 Board of Vision addenda. And my recommendation today would be to maintain the 2020 assessed value of $2,276,000. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Thank you. questions, Mr. Bergstrom?
I do have just a couple. So you've shown information within your brief that indicates that the lease rate in place on this property is $8.15 a square foot,
Yes.
and that includes all of the lands for the site, correct?
From what they filled out, they have a leased area of 17,909 square feet.
That's the
Be
building.
the building.
Yes. But that lease, single occupant property, that lease would include the use of the site as well, right?
Yes.
And so here we have a relatively large land building ratio at 7.77.
Compared to the previous one, it was at 5, so it's not that much larger.
So you'll agree with me that the contract, all of the lease comparables that you show are all contract rents, right?
For which? For the rent comparables?
So your information on page 5, those are all contract rents, right?
Yes.
And so here we have a contract rent.
Potentially, it could very well be owner occupied
Right.
with the
Right.
rate that people don't fill them out.
I appreciate that, but let's assume for the moment that it is in fact an arm's length lease. Why wouldn't we default to on an appeal, why wouldn't we default to the actual lease in place?
Because we still value based on market. We don't just go to owner or site specific. It's based on the model.
Based on, so you've got to default to market. So do you know what the definition of market rent is?
Market value or market rent?
Market rent.
Market rent would be what it would lease for between a tenant and landlord.
Do you have any information that would indicate that this is not a market rent?
No, but I thought the other ones weren't either, so I'm unsure on all of these.
Okay, fair enough. So you'll agree with me that the rent in place, let's assume that it's arm's length.
Yes.
And I'll get to that in our brief. That the rent in place is what the landlord is legally entitled to collect, correct?
Yes.
And it's what the tenant is legally obligated to pay.
Yes.
Not a penny more. And you'll agree with me that that rent would also be binding on any purchaser of this property, right?
If they sold and if it wasn't at rent, then the lease would have to continue with the new owner, from my understanding.
That's correct. And those are my questions. Thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
So am I.
I'm not gonna lose a great deal, I have a little bit of rebuttal, and I've been dying to get this in here. This is actually from the Dictionary of Real Estate. I have an extra copy for the professor, so. This is from the Dictionary of Real Estate, 4th edition. This is a publication of the Appraisal Institute. I have highlighted some pages for you.
Do I get one?
Oh, God, sorry.
Thank you.
Apparently you don't.
It's okay, Carrie.
Yeah. So, what I want to show you is, and the pages are numbered in the top left, 176, this is the last page, and that's the definition of market rent. All of these conditions, 1 to 5, and you'll see that it very closely reflects the definition of market value, or the standard appraisal definition of market value. All of those terms or conditions under the definition of market rent exist with the subject property lease. So it's our suggestion that the actual lease in place in the subject property is in fact market rent, as are the in these circumstances. So, if you have any questions about this, I'm happy to answer them.
My only question would be, as assessments are based on models and parameters and everything, we wouldn't, as per the assessment department, we wouldn't automatically, you would agree, like, we don't always go to the lease in place because one lease doesn't make the market.
But that's an administrative choice of the department to use modeling, to come in here to defend modeling. to defend modeling as arriving at value as required under the Act. Okay? Here, and I can refer you back to the Frieda decision, if the goal is to achieve value, we've already acknowledged that that's the rent that the owner is entitled to collect, binding on any purchaser. The Frieda decision actually set aside the decision of the municipal court, which substituted market rents for actual rents. Court of Appeals set aside that decision. In two separate assessment years, different cycles, the department very quietly settled, they were apartment buildings on Taylor, the department very quietly settled those cases by way of certificate of agreement at much lower rents than they had originally submitted at the municipal board. So if the goal is to arrive at value, and we accept that these are the rents that will be legally received by the landlord or any potential purchaser, then that's what we should be using.
But if like an appraisal were to be done based on my appraisal knowledge, you would never just look at one rent, you would look at multiple rents. You wouldn't just go with what's in place.
Well, and in fact, the rents, and that we've looked at them today, support the actual, there will always be a range, they support the rate that's in place on this property.
Okay, that's all my questions, thank you.
Questions?
Well, first of all, Brad, how do you reconcile that with equity built into the Municipal Assessment Act?
That's a good question, and I don't believe that the word equity actually appears in there anymore. Now, I know that it's been argued at the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal has sort of sidestepped the issue of equity and has affirmed the decision. And a couple of appeals not brought by me has kind of sidestepped it and has left it to the expertise of the municipal board.
And, yeah, I don't want to take up too much time here,
Go ahead.
but so, this is relevant to properties that are appealed, but are you kind of suggesting that the department should go chasing after leases in place that are way higher than the assessed value? If that lease in place is what should be where the value is?
Their choice of methodology in arriving at assessments is an administrative choice.
But it's mass appraisal, you know.
Mass assessment.
Okay, mass assessment. Okay, thanks.
No questions, thank you.
Is this for several or?
Yeah, you can throw them in. You can throw it into all of them or not, it doesn't matter to me.
Try to keep
The other ones, I mean, yeah, the Red River, they took a different approach.
Sorry.
So I'm going to tell you that this, if I can start?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I'm going to tell you that this property was actually, the improvements on there were actually constructed at two different times. I have the original structure, which is a metal frame building. It is the rear service garage. It was constructed in 1977. Reported wall height is 20 feet, and there were 9 drive-through bays on the property. Then, in 1987, there was a 2,400 square foot wood frame addition, which is the office/sales building. The property is occupied by a truck and trailer park sales and service company. I can tell you that this is an arm's length lease. There is no relationship whatsoever as between the landlord and the tenant. And so, just for reference, on page 3, if we look at there's a little blue arrow to the subject site in the middle of the picture. If we go directly north of that, there's 2 little buildings there. That's the ride time we looked at earlier today. And if we look adjacent to that, just to the right, that's the Volvo, I believe it's a Volvo truck dealership, and you'll see there the significant amount of land that's in place on that one as well. So we show an overhead shot on page 4. It's an irregularly shaped site. Building is set to the rear of the site, and my view of it is that they've maximized the usage of this site as best they can, given its configuration. I took a look at the property, and on page 8, I show the actual lease in place is $8.15 a square foot. I show a number of rental comparables, and it's certainly my suggestion that they all, consideration to the characteristics of the subject property, support the actual lease in place, and so that's what we have used. No disagreement with respect to vacancy or shortfall. Again, 7% non-recoverable, and on this property, again, built in 1977 with the 2,400 square foot 1987 addition. With all of that, the department has assigned an overall effective year built of 1979 for this property. Given that age, we've applied 7.25%. Mathematics are shown on page 10, and so we're looking for a reduction to $1,753,000. We have included verification. Yeah, and I'm open for questions.
My only question is based on page 4. You would say that the building to land ratio is superior to previous properties we've looked at on this one, or is it better?
It's different, the use, it's different. In this location, it's not unusual to find 7.77 to 1, and the lease includes the use of the entire site.
That's all my question, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Did you have a chance to,
I have not, nor in past cycles to my recollection. So. We had, did I include them at the back? I did not. I'm fairly certain we have pictures on file, but I did not include them here. That would have been part of my process. Every property is to look at what we have.
did you bring this property before the board last cycle?
I did not bring this property before this board to the best of my recollection. In fact, I think this is my first time in here with this particular one. I stand to be corrected, I'm a little fuzzy these days right now.
Oh, and this property has no basement?
No, and that's not unusual.
No, so is it slab or is it?
I dare say that that's what you're going to find in all of the properties along Old Farm Highway.
Okay, thank you.
Last one, yay.
Okay, 963 Dugald. Last one.
Oh, yeah, you have the parameters. I knew it was here.
Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. This is file number 19-3218. Roll number 06051-214000, address is 963 Dugald Road. This is a vehicle related service property. We have an actual year built in 1965 and 1997. We have leasable area at 13,168 square feet and a land to plan ratio of 5.54. On page 2, I have the aerial photo of the property. It's located on Dougal and Panet. As you can see, there is the two different buildings, so I'm assuming one was built in 1965 and one was built in 1997. I just have the exterior photo, no interior photos. I have never been to this property. Request for information was submitted, no subject sale history, and from what has been provided today, what I got from the income and expense questionnaire is not a net lease. There's owner occupied. Page 4, vehicle service garage income workup. We have $11.97 per square foot applied, 4% vacancy, 2% expenses, 7.05% cap at an estimated market value of $2,070,000. Page 5 is my rent comparables, revised my average to $13.54. Page 6 is the income value summary. Page 7, capitalization rates model drive. Page 9 is the 2017 income expense questionnaire. They did not fill out if it was owner occupied or gross or net rent on the front page, and on page 11, they checked off it was not owner occupied and they had net leases listed. And on page 13 is my 2020 Board Revision addenda. We've gone through that, so my recommendation today would be to maintain the 2020 assessed value of $2,070,000. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Thank you. Questions?
Just a couple. Now, you indicated that they didn't check out, or they checked out that it wasn't owner occupied, but, and I've been making this suggestion for more than a cycle. The questions asked on the questionnaires, rather than asking if it's owner occupied, you might want to add a tick box as to whether it's a related corporation. Because legally speaking, and in the eyes of Revenue Canada, I guess now the CRA, they are a holdco and a leaseco. So while it's not an open market lease, there is a relationship that's between the companies. Right? For the CRA's purposes, it's a holdco and a leaseco. So, and I know that's not your fault, but I keep making the suggestion, hoping it'll get taken back and things will improve. So. That was my only question / comment.
Thank you. Mr.
Good,
Hutchins?
thank you.
And I am also good.
Okay, we already know from the previous evidence, including the rebuttal previously submitted and including the email from the owner, not arm's length. Now, the property was originally constructed in 1965, 32-34 square feet with a reported 14-foot wall height. That's fairly low. Metal frame addition was constructed in 1997 with a plan area of 10,000 square feet. And a gross floor area of 10,836, so there's a little mezzanine or office space upstairs. 20-foot wall height. That's a little better, or a little closer to what it should be. I can tell you that the city has applied the 1965 variant age or effective age to the property. I don't think that's right. In my analysis of the property and based on our review of it, I think it's going to be closer to 1985 or 1988. I'm going to take you through some pictures starting at page 13. To be really honest, I wish I could remember if I'm the one that did this inspection. Nevertheless, these are the pictures that we have on file for the property. You'll see both exterior and interior shots of the two different sections. There is a car wash area in here as well, or a truck wash area in here. You'll see that on, you'll see interior shots of the non-office component on pages 17 and following. You'll see on page 18 the car wash that I was talking about. You'll see the big lawn water, or the big brush for the foamy, the step ladder to get on top of the trucks and trailers. See the office space at the bottom of page 18. I am going to tell you that this property actually on page 22 appears on the contaminated or impacted sites program list. It doesn't mean that there's been an evaluation done, but it's a red flag. So it does appear on the province's list, and that's something that at least poses some uncertainty with respect to this property, and it might be needed down the line. I have taken a look, knowing that the lease is not arm's length, I took a look again at the same rental comparables we've looked at all night long. The apartment, you'll recall, has $11.97 per square foot. My judgment on this property is that the effective year built is somewhere between 1985 and 1987, which is newer than the city. as suggested. And so I have selected 850 a square foot as appropriate in this location with this land building ratio, given that, in my judgment, the effective age of the property. 4% for vacancy, shortfall of 4.5. In this case, and non-recorded 7, in this case, the city has applied 7.05%. We're starting to get close to what we were suggesting, certainly in the other properties, and so I have adopted the 7.05% in this case. We go through our mathematics on page 10, and we're looking for a reduction to $1,442,000. And I can also tell you that the adjacent property, they utilize both sites simultaneously, but we're not making any allowance or deduction for that sort of intermingling of the properties here. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you.
My only question was for the, in regards to the effective age, did an assessor provide the?
No, that's my estimate. So if we, and just to tell you where I got my information from, if we take a look at page 24 of our brief, numbered in the bottom right-hand corner. This is the income summary from the assessment department's website, and you'll see there it says 1965. Go to the previous page, those show the two sections that were built. Obviously, the larger section is much newer. Their wall height, which is why, in my judgment, it should be closer to 1987, give or take.
Okay, but you don't know that the city applied a 1987 effective age?
I know that the city applied 1965, because that's what shows up
Okay,
in the
yes,
summary.
okay. That's all my questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchings.
Yeah, Brad, on page 10 of your calculation,
Mhm.
you're showing 12,940 square feet. The city's at 13,168. When I divide your PNMI by your income value, you're coming up at $9 a square foot. I maybe you use 13,168 in the calculation. Is that possible? So I'm getting $9 a
Yeah,
square foot.
yeah, hang on, let me look.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're quite right. So if we look at page 7 of our brief, we indicate there that it's 13,168 that should
Okay.
be used, so yes. So it's 850 a square foot on 13.
That ends up in 884. Okay, 13,168. 116,460 divided by 13,168 equals $8.84.
You know what, I can live with that. I can go through the calculations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have a chance to, no?
Well,
That's fine.
and so what I'm gonna say, and I think I went over it as I went through it, I don't recall if I was the one that took those pictures.
Oh, right.
And I just can't remember off the top of my head, so the answer is I don't know. I have not inspected it recently, and those pictures were taken in 2014.
So, I'm sorry, what else takes, there's some sort of a truck washing area, and what else takes place here?
It is G Transport, and so
Right.
they do, if I understand it correctly, repairs to, on page 14, if you look at the top. If I understand it correctly, they do repairs to trailers for the semi-trailers.
Do they maintain the J Transport fleet maybe?
It's possible, yeah. I believe that both sites are used in conjunction with each other, and as you said, they intermingle, so 971, same thing, immediately beside.
I was just wondering, on page 21 of your brief, what exactly this was? Cylindrical,
That's a trailer.
wow.
So when you look at the back of it, you see the tires there? If I can approach?
Sure. No.
It's a tanker trailer.
Yeah, exactly so.
Ooh.
Tanker.
So So you can see the wheels here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this is, when they crank it down, the rest comes down to the ground and you separate the truck and the trailer. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. That's all my questions. Thank you. And I think that concludes our
Yay.
hearing.
That wasn't too bad.
Number 10.
It wasn't nearly as bad as I initially pessimistically thought.